no, what the hell?
Your best. I said your best, Maggie.
I don't have a good one. So your adventures are over.
Oh, no. The podcast would be an awfully big adventure.
Oh, sure. Why are you Scottish?
I don't know.
I'm not about to say that I did a good Maggie Smith.
No, I did a terrible Robin Williams.
To podcast.
I went too gravelly too. I went a little.
But you sound Scottish. You are like
podcast.
You sound like you're from the mountains.
I'm trying to find the
to podcast. Now he's tough to do.
He's tough to do
in that he's inimitable. Like he has a specific thing.
I'll say this. I think I can do an adequate, terrible impression of Robin Williams doing comedy runs, which is kind of what everyone can do. Drama, Robin is a little harder to do.
Say it's not your fault.
I don't know, David. That's not your Johnny fault. Bravo.
Yeah, see, I'm going.
Did the monkey with me?
Yeah.
It Neeson's on you every time.
It Neeson's. Someone has called out that I basically only have 3 impressions.
Okay, so what are the 3?
1/3 of them get drawn towards Neeson. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Neeson.
Uh-huh.
And I'm trying to remember who the 3rd one is.
I don't know.
There are only 3 that he can actually do kind of well. And everyone else, he's trying to draw them closer to one of those 3 pillars.
Verhoeven.
Oh, my Verhoeven impression. I think we both do Verhoeven.
Sure, fair enough.
Which means we both do Goldmember.
It's just Goldmember. It's just,
we somehow,
excuse me, please.
You know we somehow didn't talk about the entire Oscar season?
The Invisible Man would attack people. What's that? What?
The Oscar-nominated director of The Substance. Her last name is the way that Goldmember says father.
Coralie Farja.
Farja.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. I didn't know that.
Isn't it weird that we spent the whole Oscar season not talking about Goldmember?
I don't think it's that weird that never came up. Okay.
I think it's weird.
Okay.
No, but Robin. See, I'm getting too. I don't know what's happening here.
You sound like a troll guarding like a gem in a mountain.
Well, don't tell Jimmy Fallon he's going to put that in his SNL audition.
Wait, I don't get the reference.
That's a very specific reference.
Okay.
Jimmy Fallon's SNL audition was him doing
lots of impressions.
The troll company auditioning new celebrity mascots, spokespeople.
Sure. So that was his way to do a lot of impressions.
Yes. And then I went to see, when I was, I guess, 12 or 13, the Strokes play at the Roseland Ballroom. And the opening act, an incredible concert to see at such a young age.
Although I saw the Strokes around that same time, and they were truly like, they came out for 35 minutes, and then they were like, we don't do fucking encores, and just left. But carry on.
This was the Is This It tour. They did a proper set.
Yeah.
And I believe it was the Strokes, the Moni Suzuki, and the opening act was Jimmy Fallon.
Wow.
I think this was before maybe Bathroom Wall had even come out.
But he's famous.
He's very famous, right. But he hadn't done the album. So I want to say he didn't even do Idiot Boyfriend. And he did the Trolls routine. And I was like, where did this come from?
Did people like it?
Yeah,
was that crowd into it? I'm just saying, doing comedy in front of a rock show can be...
It was humongous. But then years later, I saw in one of those SNL, hey, I bet you wonder what their auditions were like. And I was like, that was his audition piece. And he's now going and doing it at fucking rock concerts. A thing that lives very large in my mind that for most people means nothing.
That could be the name of this podcast.
Read us for filth.
That could be the name of this podcast.
That's why I like it so much.
Well,
we have a lot of similar detritus in our heads.
Detritus in the head is another name for this podcast.
Exactly. Just floating bits of garbage.
Mental spring cleaning.
You know what I mean?
What is the actual name of this podcast?
Blank Check, Griffin David.
It's Blank Check with Griffin and David.
Yeah. I kind of
put some respect on the articles.
All right. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
I'm Griffin.
I shouldn't rush it. I'm David.
It's a podcast about filmographies and detritus in our heads.
Mm-hmm.
Directors who have massive success early on in their careers and are given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion projects they want. And sometimes those checks clear and sometimes they bounce. Baby?
Yes. Do you ever think about how Robin Williams, Peter Pan in Hook says that to live would be the great adventure, right?
Sure. Uh-huh.
And Hook says to Smee, death is the only adventure he has left. Just interesting. Peter Pan is such an interesting text.
I'll get into it.
Mm-hmm. The big old ball of yarn that is Peter Pan.
It's a miniseries on the films, the early films of Steven Spielberg, the first half of his career. It's called Podrasic Cast.
That's right. What's wrong with that?
Nothing.
Nothing at all.
Nothing wrong.
Not a thing.
And today we're talking about Hook.
Mm-hmm.
And our guest today returning to the show. Long overdue. Long in negotiations.
Yes.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it just took a while to get here.
There were a couple things floating around. I think this was the right place for things to land. You know him best as the man who asked us all, as a people, to consider the coconut. Something we somehow did not discuss. Well, the last time you were on the show, something that looms so large in David and I's mind.
Wait a second. When was the last time? It was quite a while ago, right, Lynn?
All that jazz.
Well, I remember that.
I want to say it was 22.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember that because did I have a kid?
Yes, you had a kid.
But was my kid maybe not? So now I have seen, I mean, obviously, I'm a big fan of a lot of your
Lin Manuel Miranda. Let's say our guest today here is Lin Manuel Miranda.
Hello.
I love much of your work, but now I have seen Encanto and Moana 4 billion times because I have a young daughter. And I am now just so deep in the work there. Like, I just think about it all and very, very densely.
Of, you guys don't understand how well this is structured.
Yes.
And we'll be like, no, we know. And he's like, no, you don't understand. I've watched this 6 million times.
If you watch, you don't talk about Bruno, right? Like that many times. You do. We don't talk about Bruno. You have to start just like thinking about every single moment of it. Sorry, Lynn. I know this is boring, but yes. Anyway, I guess that didn't come up last time.
When we did Musker and Clements in 2020, which I feel like was when maybe you started messaging with us that you'd been listening to the show. I feel like
yes, that's probably
it was in response to a lot of those episodes. But when we had recorded our Moana episode, we were in no way aware you were listening to the show.
Yes, I'm aware that you were not aware.
But we're both so locked into consider the coconut as a line.
Yeah. It's a great line.
We have a lot to talk about today.
My little David Foster Wallace nod.
This is my question. Where did that come from?
Were you thinking about considering the lobster?
I mean, listen, you get a lot of materials when you're learning about the world and the culture that you're writing about. And one was this document that was all of the different uses of the coconut. And so, yeah, I think I'm a big fan of the David Foster Wallace essays. So I thought that would be a good opening line to introduce the verse where we're going to tell you all of the uses of the coconut.
That's the thing.
In song.
There's a profundity to the simplicity and the directness of it. To just be like, I'm going to tell you the uses of the coconut, and the way I'm going to open this door is just consider the coconut.
Consider the coconut. And I mean, it's fun because it's one, just really interesting how many uses one can get out of a coconut.
Right, which is
and
the point.
two, also like, man, is she going to be staring at the water and like getting out of there because it's like, it's coconut for dinner. It's coconut for breakfast.
This. Yeah. She's a really good kid.
She's a good kid, but right. It's, the coconut is very, very crucial for the first act of Moana. Their coconuts aren't working, right? Like they're getting the bad coconut.
Yeah, this is true. And then you got your whole little bad guy gang who
the Kakamora.
The Kakamora wear the coconuts as armor.
Which was giving Lost Boys energy, kind of.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's as Fury Road inspired as it seems like it is.
Right, it's very Mad Max.
But I'd say it's like half Fury Road, half Hook specifically. Something about the build of their ship looks like the Hook Lost Boys.
That's a nice segue into Hook. I'll take it. Yes.
The hideout.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing about that hideout is, and I mean, we may go in order, we may not, but like, it looks so fun in Neverland. It kind of, it's the thing that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie did by accident.
There you go.
When you get to the Foot Clan hideout and you're like, this looks dope.
It's a connection.
There's video games, there's pool tables.
Exactly.
There's a half pipe.
There's a half pipe.
Yeah. They have track, right?
If I were a wayward kid, I would end up here.
Our friend JD Amato, who directed the My Brother and Me TV show. There are a couple other times in the last couple of years we've reached out to you and you've gone, maybe I do this, but I don't know, this and that.
You know what it is? I felt so over-prepared for all that jazz because I'd been working on Fosse Verdon.
Yes,
and
you came in with a lot.
Came in with the script.
I had like stuff and some of the movies you guys pitched
John
me.
Kander.
That's right. And so for the, I just wanted to be prepped.
I will say this. This is an issue we are starting to put up against, I'd say specifically with filmmakers, where we will reach out to people and they'll be like, I only want to come on if it's a movie I feel like I can talk about backwards and forwards. Like, I need to be this prepared. And we're like, what have we done wrong in our framing of this show to make people think they need to be prepared?
Yeah,
I mean, bullshit with
all
us.
I have is vibes, and I rewatched the movie recently this time. I did not come with source text. I just, like every kid who was 11 in 1991, this movie rocked my shit.
We're like, hey,
Spielberg was really big. Is really big for you.
Absolutely.
Is humongous. Is totemic. reached out, I think gave you like first crack of just like,
what's
we've settled on doing this, anyone. And you write back, Hook.
Hook.
Right. It was just no question. It was Hook. Finger pointed there. JD had thrown out that he wanted to do Hook. And
it wasn't just, he said Close Encounters or Hook, to be clear. He did not.
Correct.
Yeah. And we said, well, you know.
And we were like, we're going to put you on Close Encounters. Lin wants Hook. And he was like, I can't believe I'm being bumped for Lin. But the thing he immediately put his chip down on was, I insist that you guys talk about, and it's what I would have come prepared, loaded for bear to talk about, is the 90s movie micro trend of the hideout that is a skate park.
Oh, yeah.
Right. It's Turtles.
He was linking
obviously.
those two immediately.
Sort of Three Ninjas kind of has that
I would
vibe,
say.
right? Like that early 90s, like it would be fun to be a kid and a ninja, like at the same time.
And it's not quite the same thing, but I think Blank Check and Richie Rich both have this element of like, what if like a perfect kid's play space that felt a little dangerous and humongous,
absolutely
all encompassing.
It's levels.
Yeah, right. Which I think
required skateboarding experts.
I think of Kramer in Seinfeld when he starts adding levels to his apartment. It's a good, levels is good. That's ambitious.
I would say though, what these spaces all have in common is no parents allowed.
No parents allowed.
Yeah.
All right. So your relationship to Hook, well, maybe your relationship to Spielberg first, though. I don't know. Like,
sure. I mean, I think you're probably with me here that like, for me, if you wanted to make movies as a little kid, they'd say, oh, you want to be the next Steven Spielberg.
Absolutely.
It was literally shorthand for director.
Yes.
And
when I was
for like
growing up.
Wunderkind, right? Like this sort of like, he started young, like he was a movie nerd and he got to,
But also I think especially in the 90s, if there is like a representation of a director in any other form of media.
Yeah, he was also playing himself as a lot of stuff. Like,
very often.
I think of him
he was a personality.
Yeah, he was in the Goonies Are Good Enough video where Cyndi Lauper goes, Mr. Spielberg, help us out. And he goes, I don't know what to do. And you're like, first of all, the fact that video had both Nikolai Volkov, Andre the Giant, and Steven Spielberg, and the entire cast of the Goonies. And it was like they didn't quite know how videos worked yet, so they just do two videos that encapsulate the plot of the Goonies and play the song twice.
I believe Rowdy Piper and Captain Lou Albano, like a lot of wrestlers are in there, right? Yeah, I have seen it. The Goonies before my time, so I've always struggled. Like Hook a little bit more my time.
Sure.
The Goonies.
Down here, it's your time.
Yeah. Okay, so all right. So Spielberg the first director any kid learns about in our generation, essentially.
Yeah, it's Spielberg. Oh, you want to be Steven Spielberg when you grow up.
Do you remember the first one you see? Like, are you hearing the name repeated before you're understanding who he is, or were you already developing a relationship?
In the same way that you'd hear West Side Story as synonymous with musicals.
Yeah.
Spielberg was synonymous with the movies. I think for me, probably the first one I saw was E.T., which
probably not in theaters.
No, definitely on VHS. Right. And my grandfather owned a video store. So I remember...
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, this is big.
In like Upper Manhattan?
No, in Puerto Rico. So when I'd go for the summers, I'd go hang out at Miranda Video and I would like see the different Jaws covers. Like there was Jaws and then there were like the subsequent ones he didn't make. And then for some reason, I associate... The big thing you also need to know is my grandfather owned a video store, so I was just unsupervised watching movies all the time. And also my grandparents had cable and my parents didn't. And so what was playing
was this a summer thing?
Basically? It was a summer thing.
Okay.
So like what was playing constantly on HBO those summers when I was a kid was Jaws 4. Was like Michael Caine and the shark following him to the thing. And also Richard Jenna's stand-up routine about how dumb Jaws 4 is. How the shark follows this one family. Too. So I remember.
I have to ask quickly: were the VHSs dubbed, subtitled, or neither?
A little bit of everything.
Interesting.
And usually they were just in English with Spanish subtitles.
Yeah.
And then my grandparents, I'm sure this wasn't legal, but they were always making copies, like with 2 VHSs. On the movies in the back. And that's where I saw the really inappropriate stuff because there was a porn section of the video store, like
in the day, man.
80s video store.
The old red curtain.
And you would just hear those movies being dubbed in the back of the Oh, my parents are going to be really upset when they listen to this.
I think you should open a video store now. You should revive Miranda
Video?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it's kind of physical media. It's getting hot again. It's sort of this cult thing.
And I think
it'd be
you
cool.
should bring back the porn section. I think I'd get a lot of
curtained
positive
off.
press.
Listen, I never went in. Like, it was back in the day, it was curtained off.
Yeah.
There was a Double Dragon 2 console in the video store, so I played a lot of Double Dragon 2. I watched that poor 4-bit girlfriend get punched so many. That's how the game starts. Punch the girlfriend, throws her over the shoulder, and then you got to go.
Mm-hmm.
So we've really ventured from my Spielberg.
No, but this is good. This is good.
Important.
But so Hook 1991. You said you were 11.
I was 11.
So you saw this in the theater.
I definitely saw this in the theaters.
Right. I also did. I was but 5, but I think was still whatever, like locked in enough with the, whatever. I was going to go see Hook, the Peter Pan movie, right? You wouldn't have. You would have been very small.
No, I'm going to get this out of the way.
He no likey Hook.
I don't like Hook.
Okay.
Griffey no likey Hook.
I struggle strongly with Hook.
It's a polarizing film.
It's a tough movie. It's because the parts that are good are so good, and it takes us a while to get there.
So I didn't see it.
And you share that opinion with Spielberg, by the way.
I do, which has always been my defense. And I will say, in the history of doing this show, right, we covered the second half of Spielberg's career 8 years ago. We're finally getting to this now. I've sort of just taken strays at Hook over the years and been like, and obviously we all know Hook sucks. And every time I would do that, our listeners would get really angry and being like, what are you talking about? And what is this assumption? This is not the norm opinion, which I feel like I grew up with. My parents went to see Hook. I was 2, 3 when this came out.
Yeah, you would have been 2 years old.
My parents definitely went on a date night to see it when I'm the one child before my brother is born. And I just remember growing up in a household where Hook was used as shorthand for folly. And a thing I've sort of had to work through in doing this series is realizing that I grew up in a weirdly anti-Spielberg household.
Right, not just Hook. They were generally a little skeptical.
But Hook is the turning point.
Sure.
It is. My parents just still, and even recently, we had a family dinner and I brought up Lin's coming on to do Hook, and they were like, God, that movie sucks. And it's this very raw thing for my parents. They still are like, man, we got a babysitter. We went to see that in Hook. And they've just anytime they have liked a Spielberg movie since Hook, they say it almost begrudgingly.
Wow.
They're just it's weird how good Bridge of Spies is. And I'm like, it's not weird.
It's not weird. He's Spielberg.
Right. But so I grew up in this house where Hook is just this cloud. I weirdly felt like I had Hook toys growing up, and they'd just be like, oh, that movie sucks. They'd just walk by me. So it was not something that was presented to me. I'd see it at friends' houses. Everyone else loved Hook. Other friends would have the VHS.
Big movie for our generation's youth.
Right.
Certainly the film got mixed reviews when it came out. It was seen as a bit of a disappointment by grown-up critics, but not us kids.
What was the movie he made just prior to this?
So it's a weird point in his career because it's the movie he makes prior to this is Always, probably his most forgotten film. Have you even seen Always?
I have not seen Always.
Richard Dreyfuss, Holly Hunter, Ghost,
remake of Golden Hollywood rom-com.
Ghost, fire pilot
what's
drama.
Weird, I have this awareness of being aware that Hook was over budget even when I was 11.
Right. It became
another thing.
Right.
It became a thing of they're having trouble making Hook.
And
I remember being a kid anticipating the movie being sequel to Peter Pan. Let's go.
Look, I'm not reading Premiere and Movie Line magazine when I'm 2.
Yeah.
But by the time I'm 7 and I'm reading it, they're still using Hook as shorthand.
Yeah, I'm definitely reading Entertainment Weekly by this point and aware that they brought in that they're having trouble.
Right, Carrie Fisher's doing rewrites.
I don't know if I was aware of Carrie Fisher.
Maybe you were.
But I was aware that it was over budget and that people were worried about it.
By many accounts, this movie, the ultimate budget was close to $80 million in 1991.
Yes.
And that's $80 million with a huge asterisk, which is Spielberg. Excuse me. The Borg.
Spielberg,
Hoffman, and Williams. All for went salaries.
And Roberts.
No, but those 3, salaries.
Oh, really?
Right. The deal was they get 0 upfront money and they get, was it 40% of first dollar earnings?
A lot of the money, the gross.
JJ has it in the dossier. We'll break it down. It was an insane structure. So it's $80 million without paying the 3 biggest people. I think Roberts was paid a lot.
Because she was newly hot stuff
Right.
at the time. Yes.
So I wanting to be this kind of like savvy, wise movie kid was just like, yeah, we all know Hook sucks. My parents taught me that Hook sucks. You use Hook as shorthand for like failed 90s blockbuster.
I'm actually flinching every time you say it.
yeah, just take it easy on our guest. Come on, he's
had
a special
seen it
guy.
piecemeal over the years many times, but
Sure.
had like never really sat down and watched the whole thing. Then I feel like,
Oh, you never saw it as a kid?
no.
Oh, wow.
Then I
It was
feel
received wisdom.
That
It
is
was
weird. It's
received wisdom.
weird.
Yep. When
Yeah.
I'm in my early 20s, my friend Jake makes some reference to Hook, and I'm just like, Hook. And he's like, you didn't grow up with Hook? And I'm like, I actually don't think I've ever seen the whole thing all the way through. And he's like, we're watching Hook tonight. We watch Hook. I'm just like,
God,
yeah.
remember having time in your 20s?
Absolutely. God,
When like
just
you would be
"We're
like,
gonna
you
watch
haven't seen this? Clear the next 3
Right.
hours. We're doing this now.
It was also the
I
era
miss
where
that.
Netflix
too.
was the only streaming service and it had every movie.
Right.
You
right.
just knew you could immediately go like this and pull Hook up. Watch It That Night was just like, this is completely missing me.
Sure.
I just don't get this.
You don't have the kid grounding at all.
Nope. And I
You don't
feel
have the thud butt at a formative time in your life.
Right.
the world's
Right. You
biggest
didn't
pin
get
in
to-
Thud Butt.
We'll talk Thud Butt.
We'll
He's
talk
coming.
Thud Butt.
We better talk.
He's
thud butt.
coming.
And was just like, I struggle with this thing. And then just went on making stray references
You've
to
never
Hook
liked
sucks.
Hook. It's never stuck to
3
you.
months ago,
Right.
4 months ago, it was playing at the Nighthawk Theater in Prospect Park.
Lovely place.
And I was like, we got this series coming.
was there
Lynn's
last
gonna
night.
come and do an episode. Yeah, it deserves a proper reconsideration on a big screen. It was advertised as a 35 print. It ended up being a DCP. I went to a weekend matinee of Hook. I walk out fuming. Fuming. I go on Letterboxd. I log it as half
Careful
a star.
the things you say. Children will listen.
I log it as half a star, and immediately the whole blank check text thread is like, Griffin, what are you doing? What point are you trying to make here? And I'm like walking down the street like harumph.
Yeah, you're fuming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, admittedly, I had dental surgery like 10 days earlier that had gone poorly and the recovery was bad.
Oh yeah, Hook and
Ben
Pain.
and I are
Hook and
exchanging a
Pain is-
knowing look.
Never
Yes.
gonna hang.
I saw some other movies in that period that I liked, but I do think in a certain way where if you have a headache and then someone starts making a high-pitched noise, it's going to hurt twice as hard. I was like, this movie has never worked for me, but when I'm in mouth pain, when my whole skull hurts, I was
Yeah.
like, please make it stop.
Cannon fire and dental work don't mix great.
The whole thing was just really rubbing against me.
Mhm.
So then I gave it another rewatch.
Sure. To prepare for like.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I'm now just back to just like, yeah, I don't know.
Well,
Like, I'm
all
not
right, okay.
angry about
All right,
it.
Let's
Yes.
close the book on you.
Established.
Hush.
Established.
Yes. All right.
But
Now,
that's my history with
I
it.
am like most
No childhood
people
grandma.
my age. I'm a little younger than Lynn, but like I say, I saw Hook as a kid and I was like, this movie rocks. It's got sword fighting in it. It's got Rufio in it. Like, this is great.
It is the only movie with Rufio in it.
Unfortunately. Hoffman like made me laugh, me made me laugh. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I remember as I grew up learning that like Julia Roberts' performance in this was considered bad. And me being like, I don't get that at all.
That's the
Isn't
best
she
acting I've
great in
ever
it?
seen.
Like, yeah. And then, yeah, I grew up and Hook's nostalgia has curdled for me slightly. There's things in it I don't like at all. I do think it's way too slow at the beginning. I think
Whoa.
it is a fascinating,
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it is a fascinating like Spielberg text. Like it is a fascinating like moment in his life on
Unquestionably.
screen. And look, you actually know Steven Spielberg almost a little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit. You've chatted with Steve.
You did a
You've had
Raiders
screenings
screening with
with
him
him?
at the,
Yeah, we did a Raiders
at the
screening.
Palace. Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever talked Hook with Steve, but I feel like he's usually fairly dismissive of it. He's kind of like, that didn't work. Right? Like,
Yeah.
have you? I mean,
Pretty
like,
much. Yeah. I mean, I'm just going by his own doc. Like,
he's just, yeah. Like,
But have you ever brought up to him? Are you like, it would break my heart to tell him I like Hook and have him make a face?
no. It's not my. Also, it's like, I mean, if I have to list Spielberg favorites, it's not even that high up there.
Of
But
course not. The man
in
has
the
a
early
resume.
Spielberg and where it landed on my life, again, and it's interesting to watch this as an 11-year-old in the theater and interesting to watch it as a 45-year-old father of two.
Mhm.
But the other micro trend that this falls into, besides skate parks as clubhouses, is dads who just don't have time for their gosh darn kids.
Cell phone.
That cell phone
get-
duel.
Is this the first cell phone movie too? Because like that
It
became
might
such
be.
shorthand
Yeah.
for like, oh, he's a workaholic. It's like, this is 91. Not a lot
Yeah.
of people have cell phones.
Not a lot of people have cell phones.
It is an era that I actually think will be hard to explain and contextualize to younger generations.
I
of
don't-
like,
I couldn't even explain to my kids when I
Right.
watched it with them that like, oh, their computer's not even in there.
Right.
There-
It used to be crazy that you had a cell
there
phone.
is
Like
a
that was
15-year
rare.
period in family film where if a character takes out a cell phone, the movie is basically saying he deserves to be shot in the street.
This
Unless
motherfucker
he
doesn't look at his
learns
kids.
A tough
He doesn't know his kids' middle
And
names.
physically holding a cell phone is
It's
the
true.
same as
It's
like,
that liar,
holding Nazi
Yes, Liar,
gold.
Liar
Yes.
is a perfect example. One of my favorite movies,
Yes.
One Fine Day, which the entire plot is the two workaholics switch cell phones.
Basically, the entire Disney live action Tim Allen canon, which was big for me, is all predicated on this guy spends too much time on his cell phone. And
like,
then
he wears suspenders, he
Yes.
goes to an
Yep,
office, he has a
suspenders
cell phone.
is a
and there's
huge part of it.
there's a baseball game and or dance recital
Yes.
that he is late
Right.
to
They
or
even
doesn't
had to
even make
struggle
it.
to justify the baseball game here. It's a Christmas
It is-
series
I'm
baseball
sorry.
game.
It is one of the immediate things in Hook where I'm like, why the fuck are they playing baseball in December?
catcher is wearing
It's
a
like-
Santa Claus beard.
It's a Christmas season.
Because
thing,
like,
and
do
it's
they
very
live in
important
New York?
to Charlie Korsmo.
Are they
I
in
don't
New
know.
York?
This movie's doing so much.
We don't really know where they are in America before they go to London, but like
Mhm.
if they're in the Northeast, they should not be playing baseball in December. It's very cold.
It's called. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway. Yes, I watch it now and I'm like, it's kind of a movie that's similar to me. There's other kids' movies like this where I'm like, kids do like this movie, as
Kids-
we have discussing.
Did you watch it with your daughter?
No, she would be baffled by this movie. She's a little too young for this.
Did you
movie, I
watch it
think.
with your children?
I watched it
kids
with
are
my
older.
kids,
Yeah.
and they
Had
basically
they seen it before? Or was it the first time?
no, they've seen it once. Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, I saw it way back when we decided we were doing this. I was like, so this was like last summer, last fall.
We scheduled very
fucking
far in
booked
advance.
this
It's taken us a long time to
Yes.
get here.
Yes.
But yeah, I watched it with them, and they were so into Neverland. It takes a long time to get to Neverland.
It takes a full 35, 40 minutes.
It's half hour to Neverland, and they're still in Pirate Land for the first 20 minutes, and it's 52 minutes till they meet the Lost Boys.
which is,
Yeah.
it's, and beyond that, which, the first half hour of this movie where it's just Spielberg being like, I'm such a workaholic. And I'm like, you're making a movie about Peter Pan for children, my friend. This movie is rated PG. Like, children are coming to see it. They don't care about your cell phone. Like, is my take. Now, again, kids like this movie. But then just like these sort of like the softness and the kind of like emotional, like, it feels too dad to me in a way sometimes. I'm like, we need more fun. We need more like kid energy in this and less like sad dad energy in it. But it did also kind of work on me as a bit of a sad dad. You know what I mean? Like, I'm watching it now and I'm like, when he's talking about his happy place or all that, I'm like, this isn't gonna not get me come on.
Yeah, see, it so doesn't get me. But I also will say that, like, watching it again this morning with my mouth in good condition, a balanced set of teeth, I was digging into more the weird, like, messiness of how much this movie is him at odds and sort of like a crossroads point in his career. I think the movie, I don't want to say the movie suffers because of that. I think the movie is basically a monument to him being in this, like, I don't know. And there's a quote that JJ pulled up in the dossier that I'm like, that's the whole fucking movie for me now. And upon reading that, I'm a little more engaged with watching the film. But your question of where he's coming from, right? Just to like snapshot it. He has this insane dominant run of blockbusters. Then he has this 80s period that's very much him trying to like grow up and make
Color
serious
Purple,
movies.
Empire
He
of the
wants to
Sun,
win an Oscar,
always.
clearly.
Yes, right.
And people are just like, get over it, right? There's this like weird wave of people being like, Spielberg's a little boy who makes theme park rides. And he's like, great, I'll make serious movies. And they're like, go back to making your theme park rides. Who are you kidding? And the one part of it that's weird for me, the existence of Hook, is that like Hook kind of makes sense to me as him being like, fine, I'll go back to doing what you guys want out of me. Had he not just made Last Crusade? Like, that's the other part of the puzzle.
Right. Which is the movie before always.
Right,
the
is
recent
that,
film
like,
for him.
In between Temple of Doom and Last Crusade, he does Color Purple, he does Empire of the Sun, he goes through the whole Twilight Zone calamity, he has his first child, he makes Always, which is like not a serious movie, but it is ostensibly trying to be a movie for grown-ups.
Sure. Like a soft grown-up movie, like a, light drama.
But he like comes back and does another Indiana Jones that is a big hit and that people like, and is him kind of doing like the Spielberg roller coaster again. So it always feels weird to me.
Man, The Last Crusade is such a good roller coaster.
I love Last Crusade.
It's my kid's favorite Indiana Jones.
And it's him being like,
well.
I'm still good at this, by the way. And everyone's like, yes, you are.
I think...
and I think that's why I was so excited to, just going back in time, that's why I was so excited to see Hook in the theater, because I had seen 100%. Last Crusade on 1,000 sleepovers.
The guy does action. Yes.
But this was probably your first theatrical.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so that's huge. Yeah. But like right after this, which has its whole like, the press is having a field day over this movie, the expectations for it were basically either this is the biggest movie of all time or it's a disappointment. And you read like the immediate press and they're all sort of like, well, it's a hit, but it's not a mega hit. And he's at this sort of odd like junction point. And then 2 years later, he does Jurassic Park and Schindler's List in the same year. Right. Right. Just the most dominant shit
take that
all time. Where I'm like,
it's a real, sort of like, it's over. He has nothing left to prove after that. But Hook, he still has stuff to prove.
Right.
And he's not quite
if it went straight from Hook to Schindler, I'd be like, okay, so he's like, you know what? That's past. I'm not doing that kind of thing anymore. I've grown up. Here's my kind of movie. But the fact that he does Jurassic in the same year and he's like, I can still knock this out of the fucking park if I want to. You want me to build a roller coaster? I'll build a roller coaster.
I mean, it's hard for kids to understand now, but like at that time when you found out Spielberg was directing Jurassic Park was such a hit book. Like 6th graders were carrying around Jurassic Park when I was in 6th grade, and everyone was like, but how are they going to do the dinosaurs?
Like
literally, like this is not possible because they'll never make them look real. And so it was like he delivered on that in the most incredible way possible. And then the movie still just fucking rips. Like he actually did it was like, it's hard to overstate how much Jurassic Park felt like you were watching the impossible happen in 1992.
I mean,
is that right?
93.
But he has talked about the fact that Jurassic was kind of an impersonal movie for him. And it's the reason he did Lost World, where he's otherwise been protective about not trying to do sequels. He had the agreement with George where he had to do the Indiana Jones sequels, but otherwise he's always kind of backed off. And he was just like, look, Jurassic Park was me just like having fun.
Yeah, just doing a good time. Yeah.
Hook and Last Crusade are both very personal and are him getting through the dad shit.
A child who became a man, going to war with a man who is a child, who is basically like, come be a child. I only want to, I want us to be children again and fight and play. And Peter Pan, like it is his id and ego, like doing battle on screen. Like it is the most psychologically rich shit. And yet Spielberg is kind of like, the sets were too big and I should have made it a musical. And like, Julia Roberts was getting on my nerves. You know what I mean? He won't acknowledge this.
I read about that this was almost a musical, that there were these John Williams, Leslie Bricusse tunes that got cut. Is this like I'll Do Anything level? This was a musical got cut?
No, because I'll Do Anything, they filmed the musicals.
Have you seen
the sequences, right?
The musical cut of I'll Do Anything?
No.
Hey, Lynn, you might get an interesting email at the end of this report.
Oh, yes!
It's quite interesting.
Look, they
don't mind the non-musical version of that movie, but
they were fully recorded, mixed, rehearsed, and then cut. They were never filmed.
Right.
I think there was recently a limited CD reissue where the third disc was the tracks, but like, as JJ dug up, one of the songs was supposed to be older Wendy, and they had gotten Julie Andrews to record it, and Maggie Smith was going to lip sync Julie Andrews singing John Williams musical numbers.
Oh my God, we could have had it all.
It got that far along.
It's fascinating to consider.
And he basically welched, like, I think a month before film.
So
that's too bad.
Steven Spielberg has always loved Peter Pan. There is the sequence in E.T., right, where Peter Pan's being read to the children, right? Peter Pan? Yeah,
yes. Right, but he's also just like the idea of Peter Pan on screen being the depiction of flight is this sort of like leveling up in the imagination. Anytime anyone flies in a movie, it's riffing on Peter Pan. E.T. flying on the bike is riffing on Peter Pan.
He has always said his mother is Peter Pan to him. And obviously, if you've seen The Fabelmans, like that makes sense. This sort of like, she seems to have the energy of this kind of like fairy woman, right? This kind of delightful musical person who would read him Peter Pan
like a
and all
pixie
that.
Haircut. And
yes. And then, of course, as Spielberg becomes a famous filmmaker, everyone's like, this is Peter Pan. This is the boy who won't grow up, right? It's the easiest thing to tag him with. So in 1984, news breaks. Steven Spielberg will be making a live adaptation of Peter Pan in London. No one has ever done a Peter Pan movie at this point. Since like the silent era.
That's
like
what's
obviously
crazy.
there's the Disney film, but no one's done a live action Peter Pan.
Yes. His quote was, there has never been a live action picture except a 1924 silent version. This is the first real motion picture version of Peter Pan. And I'm really excited about it.
You will believe a boy can fly.
Right. That's basically his pitch is like, the Disney one is the definitive one. If I can pull this off in live action and pull off the impossible, I make the definitive version of this story, which is insane to consider now where there's a new Peter Pan movie every 24 months. Like post-Hook, it has not stopped.
Hoffman is attached as Captain Hook pretty much from the beginning. Michael Jackson is heavily interested in playing Peter Pan.
He really wants to do it.
Michael Jackson, as people know, may have had a bit of a thing about Peter Pan. You guys, you know that he had the Neverland Ranch and so on and so forth. Spielberg waves him off. Supposedly, Michael Jackson hired a witch doctor to cast a curse on him. That is like one of the many Michael Jackson stories that's out there that may or may not be true. Who knows?
Spielberg's response in an interview was, "What else is new?"
But
it's a really good line.
In 1985,
I say that to everything.
I'm sorry. It was, "This is bizarre, but what else is new?"
Wowie.
Spielberg has a son in 1985, and Spielberg says his appetite for Peter Pan goes away once this happens. I think partly because making it was going to be this giant London production, like, whatever, like with sets and shit, where he's like, I don't have time.
I don't want to be away from my child.
I want to be with my kid, Max, his first kid.
With Amy Irving.
With Amy Irving, a friend of the show. And past some future guests. We'll get her back, right?
We'll get her back.
And so Peter Pan goes away.
But there's the other part of it.
Backburnered all the way to the back.
He's like, this has ended my permanent adolescence. A child is born. I look at it. Suddenly I have responsibility in the world. And he sort of talked about
It's Peter Banning's happy thought.
Basically. Yes. Where he's just like, immediately I found myself becoming my parents in the way I told myself I would never be. The transformation happened. I couldn't stop it. I no longer connected to Peter Pan as a character.
So Jim V. Hart, who is one of the credited screenwriters on this movie, an interesting guy, like his career is interesting. He picks up the project as writing it and shifts it to what Hook is, which is sort of a sequel to Peter Pan, right? Like, what if Peter Pan grew up? What if Captain Hook wasn't dead? Like, what if Captain Hook, was merely lurking in the crocodile and then escaped? I don't know. They don't really get into it, do they?
Look, it's a good kid logic pitch where his little son draws a picture of Captain Hook and the crocodile. And he's like, what's that? And as the son's describing it, he's like, it's Captain Hook and the crocodile, but the crocodile didn't actually eat Captain Hook. Captain Hook got away. And he goes like, ping. What if Captain Hook's still alive? Somehow Captain Hook has returned.
Nick Castle, who famously plays Michael Myers in Halloween, but is also like how would you describe him, Griff? Like a sort of low to mid-budget genre filmmaker at this point.
I just want to call out.
Makes The Last Starfighter, makes Tap.
Yes, I just want to call out Hart. It's a two-pronged thing. There's the what if Hook survived?
Yeah.
And then he's like, a year or two later, his son goes, Daddy, what happens to Peter Pan when he grows up? And he's like, he doesn't. And he's like, but what if he did? And he's like, are you a fucking exec?
I'm buying in the room.
Yes, truly. Right. Right. Then immediately
$500,000.
I locked up the rights.
That's a good fucking Hook. You're asking big questions. Yes. Nick Castle is
he comes aboard.
Interesting genre figure who obviously has the roots in the Carpenter stuff, but then does Last Starfighter, a film I adore, but kind of was one of these guys who was always like making movies that felt like they should have been huge hits, but always stayed a little cult. They were never bombs, but he was never totally crossing over.
Pictures at this point ended up at Sony TriStar. And Mike Medavoy, who's Spielberg's first agent, comes on as a producer, and Spielberg is basically brought in to displace Castle. Castle's bought out, given $500,000 to leave the project because Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman want Steven Spielberg. Like, they know he had sniffed this project before. They obviously want Steven Spielberg.
It's kind of the beginning of the mega packaging, where they were just like, what if we put all our biggest clients on this? They go to Spielberg. He's like, I would never want to be responsible for another director getting kicked off a project.
They're
he's like,
too late.
Well, great news. I fired him a week ago. It's yours.
Yes.
They basically set it up so that they were just like, the toes have already been stepped on, my man. You can't stop this.
And so Spielberg's coming aboard a project that isn't his project exactly. He wanted to make Peter Pan. At this point, it's now evolved into the Peter Pan sequel concept, right? And he's like, that's a good idea for a movie. I'm not sure it's my idea for a movie, but okay. And he brings in Malia Scotch-Marmo, the other screenplay writer here, who reshapes the character of Hook, I guess. Carrie Fisher famously did a lot of rewriting. I think a lot of other people did too. Hoffman had basically always been aboard. Spielberg had almost made Rain Man with him a while ago, so I guess they'd sort of been circling each other.
He was so close to doing Rain Man, but was contractually obligated to do Indy 3. And unsurprisingly, Dustin Hoffman and Tom Cruise had a lot of script notes, and the development of that movie took a long time. So it was all three of them together working on it, and Spielberg had his like moment where it's like, if I haven't started filming Rain Man by this date, I will not be able to then finish in time to go do Indy. And he left Rain Man and then watches someone else win Best Picture and Best Director.
True. Hoffman,
which probably has to get to him a little bit.
Spielberg, Hoffman, and Williams all declined salaries, as you say. Instead, they're going to split 40% of the gross from the movie, which is a lot of money.
But they get, there's a weird structure where it's like they get 40% of the first 200 million, and then it goes back to Sony, and then they get everything after that.
Who cares? Julia Roberts, who's 24 years old. Steven Spielberg, Robin Williams, and Justin.
Deadline.
Yeah, Deadline.
Julia Roberts is only 24 years old. Pretty Woman obviously came out a year before Hook.
A thing that is insane to consider.
She had just gone through a very scandalous tabloidy breakup with Kiefer Sutherland, where she supposedly left him at the altar. I think in actuality, she called off the wedding a few days before.
JJ has 4 pages of notes devoted to the fact that she actually broke off the marriage 3 days before the wedding, not at the altar.
Fair enough.
Vindication.
But like,
it's the most JJ has ever dug in.
I think because Julia Roberts has become this very sort of gentle celebrity, like people are just like, yeah, Julia Roberts is chill. She's like been married for a zillion years. She kind of lives in San Francisco doing it. It is hard for younger people to remember, to know how much insane scrutiny she was under in the early 90s. Like the most insane press bullshit around her at all times.
She is 24. She's already been nominated for 2 Academy Awards. She's the biggest female star in Hollywood. She's already had like relationship drama that's burning up the tabloids. Yeah, she was in a real like
Spielberg movie.
Certainly. I think they did not enjoy working together. I think now they are like, we were both just not, it's too bad. You know, it's not like they still hate each other. Like they talk about it like this sort of like, hey man, we were both in bad places and it just wasn't working. And of course, almost all of her footage is just on a blue screen with nobody around her, which must have been a huge bummer. Like once in a while, I think Robin Williams would come to sort of do lines with her, but that's about it.
I think the biggest nod to that era that you see in the movie is there's just these random cutaways of her just grinning that beautiful Pretty Woman smile.
Yes.
And it's like, you almost can hear the exec be like, where's the smile?
Do the move.
Do the move.
Yeah.
Because, you know, obviously she sold a lot of tickets on that dazzling, and her incredible performance in Pretty Woman.
But she said basically...
But it feels cut in. Like they'll be like, the Lost Boys will be playing, and then they'll just cut to Julia Roberts being like...
She doesn't have a sort of role in this film in a weird sort of a way. You know,
it's a weird Eponini. Like she's have,
there,
but she's playing this weird unrequited love. She's speaking the unspoken subtext of Tinkerbell and Peter Pan, which is that Tinkerbell is jealous of Wendy, but like it's now these monologues.
And her growing fully sized and putting on essentially a wedding dress to talk to Peter Pan, where you're sort of like, we already knew this. We didn't quite need it.
Well, it needs to be that overstated because you've hired Julia Roberts to do it. Like now you need to justify why she's the third name above the title.
It's the equivalent of like, well, if she's singing in it, she's got to have a second act solo. Like you've got that scene is her second act solo that they wrote because Julia Roberts is playing
the scene of her getting big for 4 minutes feels like her being like, can I have one scene where I stand on a set
with a person
in front of a person and make eye contact?
Just a girl in front of a boy.
Right. She basically was like, Hoffman did off camera for me one time. Robin did it a couple times. I was mostly in a harness surrounded by crew guys in front of a blue screen.
As Spielberg put it at the time, this is 1991. Her personal life fell apart and she reported to work on the same weekend. It was a bad time for her. And under those highly charged emotional conditions, she was a pro. But in 99, Roberts did complain about Spielberg calling him a turncoat. Said that he basically didn't like defend her in the press enough, I think. Like, I think she was getting so much shit
She
wanted a little bit more backup from him.
She didn't like what you actually said. She didn't like that his line became like, it was a bad time for us to work together.
Yeah,
she
and
found
like she was going through a lot of shit. So under those circumstances, she did fine. It's true. It's a bit backhanded. I don't know, man. They figured it out. Everyone's doing fine. They're all rich. They're all successful. They all have Oscars.
Everyone's okay.
Because even 1999 Julia Roberts is different from like 2009. You know, like she still hasn't won her Oscar yet. She's still like just sort of putting this turnaround. You know, anyway.
Can
I love Julia Roberts.
Call out my favorite quote that JJ found here? New York Times interview when the movie's about to come out. Spielberg says, "I guess I had to get a little older to see that I wasn't done regressing. I've given up trying to be Martin Scorsese, Kurosawa, or David Lean. Maybe this film is about my finally growing up. I guess I've given up avoiding me." Everything I find textually interesting about this movie is this feeling of him being like, I guess you've got me figured out.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right? Like him sort of being backed in a corner and it's like, I guess you're everything I say I am.
But you know what's fun? I mean, when I think about the parts I love in this movie, it's none of that. And again, like, sometimes you have to wait a bit to get to these good parts, but like, man, the wonder he finds in Neverland when we finally get to the Lost Boys. And the other thing I just want to call out is the fact that like, it's pretty much all white people until Neverland.
Very true.
And that's
very pointed, I would say.
The other thing that I think is so incredible about this movie is that like when he creates joy and like fun personified, suddenly the rest of the world is allowed to be in the movie. And there's Hispanic kids and Black kids and Asian kids. And we have an Asian leader of the Lost Boys in Dante Basco as Rufio. And it explodes in color in every single sense. And that is, I mean, again, like it is hard to overstate how much Rufio meant to kids.
I wonder how much he knew. Like Spielberg, like because it does feel conscious in the movie that like a lot of the Lost Boys,
especially when you consider when in the scene at the fundraiser when they're honoring Wendy, all these old white men stand up, and are like, "You raised me, Wendy. You raised me, Wendy." And then we go to the real Neverland, and they're the United Colors of Benetton, and you're like, "Well, when did Neverland start letting us in?" Is how I kind of felt.
Dante Basco, I'll read his quote. So he was from basically like Compton. He was from California.
Well, he was like, I was adjacent to Compton.
Sure. Okay, fine. Yeah. I think, I'm not, but like he says that like he grew up around like gangs and friends and gangs like that. There were things about the Lost Boys that resonated for him as a young, I mean, how old is he in this film? Like 14, something like that. He only auditioned one time and then he read on tape and then he meets with Spielberg. And apparently Spielberg said out of all the kids he saw, Basco is the only kid who scared him, which is a great, like, he does have, like, I mean, I think it's an incredible performance. And I think that
he's incredible.
Rufio became something of a sort of, like you're saying, like, folk hero to kids our age.
I think Rufio is 50% of this movie having any stickiness and any legacy.
Yeah. You watch it as an adult. Because as a kid, I was like, oh, Rufio's tough and scary and interesting. And like, then at the end he dies and you're like, this is moving. As an adult, you watch and you're like, this poor kid. It's such an emotion. We'll get into it. But just like all the emotions of like the dad left and is back, like the way he loves Peter and resents him.
Absolutely.
He plays it so well. He's a great, I mean, I love Dante Basco.
I mean, to me, that's one of the great moments in the films when he draws that line, it's me or the pan. And then, I mean, when I think back on this movie, if you were to sum this movie up in one sentence, it would be, there you are, Peter. Like, that's the moment. And then John Williams comes in with that music and they all cross the line. I mean, like, I'm like, why the fuck am I crying?
The fact that he later got to be Zuko and have this sort of like lovely second act to his career is so great. I mean, I love Avatar: The Last Airbender and all that, but he's just amazing in this.
The reason I call out the Compton adjacent thing is because he made this point of being like, I wasn't in gangs, but I grew up next to kids who were in gangs. Like he had this right balance of just sort of like, I'm not a tough kid, but I understand what tough kids are, which maybe makes me the right amount of scary for a Spielberg Peter Pan movie.
And also has that vulnerability. I mean,
exactly.
And also, I think, again, like that final battle between the Lost Boys and the pirates is also what doesn't work about this movie to me, is that like you never quite understand the rules of death and consequences in Neverland. It's like the Lost Boys are doing Home Alone, and they're doing the Barbie beach fight.
They have a chicken
and the pirates have guns and knives. Like, by the way, like painted ladies, for the record. Like I did not catch Smee being like a friend to all the painted ladies in town the first time I watched this movie.
Horny.
Like they're adults and they're killing motherfuckers, and everyone else is like the Lost Boys are throwing eggs. And so when Rufio dies, you're like, wait, that can happen?
Right. The Lost Boys can die? Is this not just like an eternal play?
But it also
right? Like
very late. Look, I don't want to be like nitpicky, but this is like a core thing. I do. I clearly so badly
To be fair, Peter Pan has this oddness to it as well. Like the core text that is Peter Pan.
But I'm pulling at this only because you presented it. It is a core issue I have with this movie, which is like, I do not understand the way that Neverland operates.
I agree.
No, what you're saying of like, he has two giant sets, right? There's like the pirate ship in the docks, and you're like, this is Pirate Land, and this is the Lost Boys hideout.
Right.
And I'm like, what's happening in between them, and what is their relationship to each other? Just, I don't need like hard brass like
Ben's
answers.
coming.
But you're thinking it like an adult.
It's a fairy story.
Happy thought and fly with us.
Yeah.
I mean, like also Peter Pan is very strictly a fairy story of like, there's the pirates, there's Tiger Lily, which this movie cleverly is just like, we're going to brush by that.
Yeah, they reference it, but they don't go there.
Yes. There's the Lost Boys. Like, how do you get there? Second, start on the right, fly onto right. It's all just like kid logic.
Yeah,
the whole thing of Neverland is kid logic.
But you're right. One of the things that makes the film squishy and not quite certainly work for you is that like adult logic comes into it,
right? And have
because
grown people from our world
the
entering.
Prism of adults,
yes.
right?
Yeah,
that's
but
what
they
makes
have
me
to let it
question
go.
And it's a half hour of setup from Grown Up Land.
Yes, I'm also not asking for like an explanation of the municipality,
but that's
of like Neverland.
That's why Hook is a good character, because he is a kid's impression of a grown up. He's not a real grown up. He's a cartoon character.
Yes,
and like it's like one of those Star Trek episodes on the holodeck where like the holodeck comes to life, where they're like, "What is I'm Moriarty? What's my purpose? I just exist in opposition to someone." Like that's not a real person, right? Like Captain Hook is just, and the whole thing with Peter Pan is, as Lynn knows, and I'm sure you guys know, classically the same actor plays Wendy's father in Hook, and it's this insane Freudian shit, like baked into Peter Pan. The only movie that ever did it was the PJ Hogan movie had Jason Isaacs do it, which I always loved.
Yeah,
like they actually obeyed that rule. And I know, I assume it's partly just theatrical convention of like, well, we need this actor to do more than one thing. Like, right? Like, we don't want to cast two people. But that Hook is this kind of dark side, right, of grown-upness. Like that she goes to this, place where her dad is suddenly the mean villain who wants to, I guess, stop everyone and having fun. Right, exactly. Right. But that, like, the concept of Hook is so clever of like Peter Pan's gone and Captain Hook's like, what do I do? I'm fucking stuck here? Like, just being Captain Hook against nobody?
Yeah.
This blows. Like, where's Peter Pan? Like, I exist only to fight Peter Pan. And, like, he just needs to, like, finish this hero's journey or villain's journey or whatever.
But I think the other squishy thing for me in this movie, and it really stuck. It was weird to me when I first saw it, and it's even weirder now. And I did a little reading on this, and I understand why they did it. But apparently, J.M. Barrie wrote in a later story that Peter Pan ran away from home as an infant, which
is in this movie.
But
you see the carriage running away. Yeah.
Oh man! But the things we could have had if they hadn't done that, because it's the part that strains the most credulity. Like every parent goes and gets the stroller back, and you get your like. No child has ever run away from home from being a baby helpless in a carriage that rolls away. Like that it doesn't make sense in a literal or metaphorical sense.
A static sense.
If Peter Pan had actually been a 10-year-old kid who ran away from home to become Peter Pan.
Yes, to avoid puberty. He knows what's
not
next.
Grow up.
It needs to be a choice. That's the problem.
It needs to be a choice. And a baby cannot push his own carriage away.
Oh, he sure does it in this movie.
I get to that whole extended sequence, right? That basically starts with that through to like him seeing Gwyneth Paltrow for the first time.
As we all do at some point in our lives.
Right. We all
see Gwyneth Paltrow and we decide to grow up.
We will
Yes.
all be tempted by Gwyneth Paltrow.
He imprints upon her like a fucking Twilight. He's just like,
gorgeous.
I'm calling dibs on that baby.
No, I'm really going to kiss her. Move over, grandma.
Yeah. But like that through to what you said is like the thesis of the movie of having the moment where he sees his son and he's like, this is why I wanted to grow up, right? I'm like, this should be the core of the movie. And in a certain way, I think this sequence has the most power. And yet I think it's basically botching every part of what it's trying to say. And it starts with what you said, where it's just like two adults being like, and then he's going to go to business school and this and that. And I'm like, I'm
Your
locked.
baby rolled away.
This is the thing. I am so locked into that idea. Like that is something.
You should just be a kid, you're saying. You know, it's a little
You
weird
might
that it's a baby.
be surprised to hear that that is a thing I relate to very strongly. Of being a
Absolutely.
child and hearing adults be like, and when you're a grown up, you'll do this. And me being like, fuck you.
Right.
I'm out. But the second it's like, I'm a baby, and I remember hearing them say that. So I magically willed my stroller away until Tinkerbell came and flew me
And again,
over.
I think it comes out of a fidelity to a J.M. Barrie text, but that's the other thing that like gnaws at you while you're watching it. You're like, your grandmother's name was Wendy Darling, and you've never questioned like, and the movie starts with him watching his daughter playing Wendy Darling in a play. Like, there's no examination of the like, so how are we, did
How did
J.M.
this
Barrie our
become
neighbor?
myth? Right.
Right.
Yes,
Here's another
yes.
thing I find super fucking smushy. So he's doing that, right? Tinkerbell flies him over. He meets Wendy. He goes back and visits her. She becomes an old lady. He falls in love with Gwyneth Paltrow. He's like, I gotta stay here. Then it basically hard cuts to he's Robin Williams with the suspenders in the delivery room looking at the baby and going, here we go. This is why I want to be a grown-up. What happens in between those 2 points? When does he stop remembering that he's Peter Pan?
She says like he doesn't remember anything before he's 12 years old.
But you're telling me that he like jumps through the window when he's 12, sees this 12-year-old is like, yes, please, erase my memory.
Kind of.
You adopt me, raise me next to your granddaughter. By the way, I just want to restate dibs. No one else can date her. They date all the way through having their first child. And then he's like, there we go. This is why I'm here.
Yeah. I also, I rub up against logic of like, if they took him away when he was a baby, how'd he grow up in Neverland?
That's right.
Why couldn't he have just gone away at the age when he'd be Peter Pan?
That's always been the Peter Pan logic, which, as you said, like maybe the J.M. Barrie thing starts with him being a baby. That's a good like note that other people came up with when they readapted it to be like, oh, it's actually better if he stays the age he ran away at. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Steven Spielberg, just to finish out the sort of context here. This film was supposed to take 76 days to shoot. It took 116, so way over production.
It was
and
supposed
budget
to
and all
be
that.
like 40, and then it ended up somewhere between 60 and 80.
It's this era for Spielberg, I think, where he's too famous. People come visit at the set. Obviously, there's all like the celebrity cameos in it. It kind of, and he builds these crazy
Although
sets.
Glenn Close is legit great as
She's
that
really
one
good.
pirate.
She acts. I mean, like she's doing it. But like I think people he
When
had
she
these
bursts
sets. She's really funny.
She's
People
really
are swinging
funny.
by. Come see this fucking crazy
You're
set,
saying
right?
you see the Lost Boys lair and you're like, I want to hang out there. This movie looks like the best like theme park walkthrough attraction of all time. And it does feel like he just basically half of every day was a party where he would give people tours and be like, don't you want to go down the slide?
The boat. It's the Jolly Roger cost $1.5 million. Is the most expensive like thing ever built in a Steven Spielberg movie. Tom Cruise, Demi Moore, Whoopi Goldberg, Michelle Pfeiffer, Warren Beatty, Annette Bening, Mel Gibson, Prince, and the Queen of Jordan among the people who visited the set. I'm just like, no wonder he's getting distracted. No wonder things are taking too long.
Yeah.
Like he's too kind of, wrapped up in this madness. And to touch on the musical thing, as we said, there is 5 to 8 songs that Williams writes with Leslie Bricusse. Is that
Leslie
her?
Bricusse, yeah.
Who is that? I don't really know.
Leslie Bricusse,
Who's the lyricist,
yes,
obviously.
the lyricist. Oh man, I'm gonna forget. But Leslie Bricusse wrote a lot for the theater.
He did, I'm seeing here, Dr. Dolittle, Talk to the Animals, stuff like that. Goodbye, Mr. Chips, The Pure Imagination, and The Candyman from Willy
Yes,
Wonka.
that's
so a
the
lot
big
of
one.
like movie musical stuff.
Oh, it was like partners with Anthony Newley.
Right.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
Spielberg basically chickens out, he says. Like, obviously he's always wanted to make a musical. He finally does it fucking 30 years later with West Side Story. But my guess is he's kind of like, if I'm going to make a musical, I really, really want it to be like something where I'm fully invested. And maybe these songs feel like more of like an add-on. And he's just like, I can't deal with it. Like,
I mean, it's already a lot of movie without it being a musical.
Exactly.
It's already
I
2
get
hours
it.
and 20 minutes long, which is insane. But when you watch the theatrical cut of I'll Do Anything, you have the thought, how could songs possibly fit into this, right? And when you watch the cut that you may or may not receive a Google Drive link to after this episode, you're like, oh, they fit in oddly. This doesn't like solve the movie. This is very weird and uncanny to watch, right? Hook does feel to me like a musical that the songs were cut out of. Like, I'm like, everything in its tone and its stylization and its level of performance, and even just sort of like, it feels weirdly stage bound, even though it has these ginormous sets.
they are sets.
Right. And it's sort of like 2 big locations that you're ping-ponging back and forth through, where you're watching people jump around these like jungle gyms.
One of my favorite scenes in the movie, in terms of just like Spielberg operating on master level of visual storytelling, is when Hook is being introduced, where the Hook is on the pillow moving through the set and all the pirates are going like, Hook, and like, the music starts to go crazy, and then like we go and he comes out, you're just like, right, Spielberg's really good at this.
I like that sequence. I
Building
like
up
the
your
abduction of the
anticipation.
children.
Yes.
Obviously, my favorite image in the whole movie
Those-
is just the fucking hook on the window.
Those
It's good.
feel like musical sequences
Yep.
without a song being sung,
Right,
really.
right. It's
like,
building
Those are
to a
also,
musical
by
number.
the way, like barriers to entry for younger kids watching this movie. That looks like Poltergeist when those blankets come off those kids.
that whole part is, I think I loved it. The thing that freaked me out as a kid, I remember, is the nanny screaming, the children, like when they get home.
Yeah.
It's a little like unnerving. So the first half hour of this movie, if we're getting into Hook, Peter Banning, he's a workaholic lawyer.
Cell phone.
He's got
Holster.
this fucking cell phone.
He's got
He can
He can
quick draw better than anybody.
Right. These are the real pirates.
Gorgeous and charming Carolyn Goodall, who's really good in this movie.
Yes.
Like, she doesn't have much to do, but when she's crying at the end, she's so involving.
I agree.
Like,
Later reused in Schindler's List.
She's amazing in
as
Schindler's
Mrs.
List.
Schindler. Yeah.
is his wife. They have 2 kids. Charlie Korsmo obviously is
Another
adorable Jack Banning.
MVP of this movie.
I, however, love little Amber Scott. I don't really know if she ever did anything else, but she's so cute. Maggie, the little kid,
Yeah.
when she sings the song, and
Which is also the same melody as A Penny for Your Thoughts from Waiting for Guffman.
oh,
A penny
catch.
for your thoughts.
that's why we
a
have Mr.
dime
Miranda
for
on the
your
show.
dreams.
It also, look, it feels like kissing cousins with Somewhere Out There as well, coming out of the Spielberg system. Yes.
Maggie has the incredible insult, "You need a mother very, very badly." She really puts the mustard on that line. I think I just have a kid with her energy. Maybe that's why I'm. But he's a workaholic.
Then I also want to speak up for Charlie Korsmo, who, by the way,
Yeah, he's great.
left the business. He's a lawyer now.
Yes,
And he is so good in this. And he was also in Dick Tracy.
he's the kid.
He's
He's the kid.
And he's great in Dick Tracy.
He's great in
He's
Dick
also
Tracy.
really good in Can't Hardly Wait.
Yes, he is. His last role, I
He
think.
had like an incredible run. Yeah.
He's just got a great face. He's just got a great 90s kid face. Like, he's what a 90s kid looks
He's
like
the
to me.
ultimate 90s
Yeah,
kid.
but
And-
this movie was festooned with our favorite child actors. I want to point out Jason Fisher, who is like just one of the Lost Boys, but he
He's,
was also the kid
ace.
in The Witches.
Right.
And he was
with
Steve
the
Martin's son
glasses.
in Parenthood, which is what I remember when he lost his retainer and like flipped out.
Yeah.
Those are his 3 roles. That guy was 3 and out. Those are
Yeah.
his 3 roles.
But he was great in all of those.
He's great. Yeah,
God,
yeah.
Charlie Korsmo had What About Bob as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
He was
God.
just on a heater.
You know,
Korsmo.
I
The Rocket.
did Little League Baseball. Did you do Little League Baseball?
I was forced,
Exactly.
basically at hook point.
I just like that. So like I think Charlie's
Run home.
like little
Run home,
baseball obsession.
That's what it felt like, really.
Yes. I was just like, yeah, this is me. You know, like I am right. I don't know. I identified very strongly with little Jack Banning as a kid. But Jack Banning loves his dad, loves baseball, but his dad no attend baseball game in Christmas time.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
but David, he sends a cinematographer.
He sent a cinematographer to
Send a
catch all the
cinematographer.
action.
Yeah,
A video.
that feels personal. Send someone to film it.
Yeah, that'll
That's
really
not a-
resonate with that kid when
typical
he's
dad move.
scanning the bleachers looking for daddy. Very quickly after this, though, they get on a plane to go to London, where Peter was raised as an orphan by Wendy from Peter Pan, who's now Maggie Smith in old age makeup. It's one of those funny things where you're like, this is actually Maggie Smith younger You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like they're aging
They're
her
aging up to McGonagall levels.
and right, we know what she's going to look like, and they kind of nail it.
The
Like,
mi-
yeah,
that's
they
the-
really nail it.
The mind
get there.
glitches watching it now because you're like, how the fuck did she live another 40 years? And the answer is she's like 57 in this, but they just absolutely correctly predicted the exact way she would age.
They nailed it.
Well
they
done,
do, and
ILM.
she's really good. And obviously, I'm sure she was just cast because she has instant mega presence.
Yeah.
Maggie Smith is
Yeah.
the greatest.
Was she a dame yet? She probably wasn't even a dame yet.
This
That's
is
a
a
great.
great
When did she
question.
get the key? The DVE,
It
as
does
they
speak
call it.
a little bit to the hubris of this movie, though, where it's just like, he's Steven Spielberg. For every single role, you're going to get the single greatest person you could possibly find for that moment, you know? I think Bob Hoskins as Smee is maybe the best performance in this
She
movie.
had
So good.
just gotten her
Okay.
damehood
Oh, she's
in
freshly damed.
1990. She's freshly damed.
But in a way
She has
that
2 Oscars already.
unbalances the film a little
Prime
bit
Miss
for
Jean
me.
Brody, one of my mom's favorite movies.
An incredible movie. And then the OK California Suite, her
Sure.
other Oscar win.
But like when you have Bob Hoskins as Smee, just throwing fastballs.
Yeah.
See, my parents forced me to play baseball. I understand what a fastball is. I explained this to Ben for some unclear reason.
Yeah, Ben.
Right. I'm
A
just like,
fastball is a ball that goes very fast. From the pitcher to
balls
so
aren't as
fast.
fast as others.
to know. And a curveball? I'm going to guess.
Yeah.
Kind of a curve. to
Well,
it.
I'll tell you, the fucking Jack Banning can't hit a curveball for shit.
yeah, he cannot.
Yeah,
This
Robin's
guy-
like, no, not the curveball.
The scouting report
Ooh,
of this guy is easy, like breaking balls. He
Yeah, see, the
cannot
thing is,
hit them.
I felt it and that I was sucked at baseball.
Oh, you did?
And I especially was bad at batting.
Uh-huh.
I've talked
Which is
about this
hard.
before, but I was left-handed and like 2 foot -6. And what my little league teams would do was they would put me up to bat when bases were loaded because they'd call me the walk-on kid.
Uh-huh.
Children could not pitch to me.
Because
You
you,
had no
you
strike
had no
zone.
strike zone and you
Correct.
were a lefty.
So they
Yes,
would
right.
throw the ball and it would hit me and it would hurt. And then everyone would cheer and give me a thumbs up and go,
Take
Griffin,
your base!
good job. And I would limp with tears over to first base and get them.
Hey,
a
man,
run.
dude, Barry Bonds over here.
But
Yeah,
it
great
speaks
OBP.
to my torture relationship to sports is just like, if you're willing to undergo physical pain, then maybe your dad will be proud for 30 seconds.
So
What I was going to say is that Bob Hoskins is so good throwing fastballs as Smee that when he's on screen, I'm like, oh, right. So this whole movie's about Smee, right? And it's like, no, he's Smee. He's like one of the parts of this
Yeah,
thing.
he's number 2 to Mr. Hook.
Right. But he's giving you so much that you're like, well, this film should be called Smee. It's
he's
Peter Pan
very, very-
retold from Smee's
Smee
perspective.
and Rufio would be a very successful spin-off
I mean,
of
it would
this
be
movie.
good.
Hoskins is
Take what works.
right at the peak of like, somehow this guy has become a Hollywood movie star. Like, where it's like Mermaids
Roger Rabbit.
is the year before, Roger Rabbit a couple years before then, Mario Brothers is coming up, where it's kind of like, yeah, I guess this like 5'6" Cockney guy needs to be the lead of movies.
That's what's crazy, though. It's not just that he had become a
Yeah, the
major
best.
movie star, but it was like kids love Bob Hoskins,
which
which
we
is
did.
so funny
We
to
did.
consider.
Like,
we did.
I would see that guy and I would be like, there's my friend Bob Hoskins. Like,
my
truly.
best friend.
100%.
Yes. And like then only later do I realize like that was like a serious actor. That's like an Oscar nominated serious thespian. I mean, that's the Hoskins clip that I watch all the time of when he gets the Mario role and his kids are like, Mario, we played Mario. And he's like, what? And they load it from this. And he's like, and I watched this little boop, boop. And he's like, I used to play King Lear. I play King Lear.
But he signed on not knowing it was a game. He's
No.
like, what a wild idea for a picture.
I mean, I think he signed
We're
on
plumbers.
with
Yeah.
like whatever the zeros on the check
Right,
were.
the
Like,
script
yes.
was made in a sandwich wedged between $1 million bills.
Yeah. So all right, but so Peter Banning. Okay, so he goes to England. It's this snowy sort of fakey England, like this like total fantasy of England. Like does not snow like that in England ever, and like it just feels like they like go to a Christmas card, right? Like they go to this lovely big home, this big kind of attic-y room, right? Like it's like they're going into Peter Pan world
Allow
sort of
me
already.
To throw out a thing that already drives me crazy about the movie at this point.
Is it? I do really like the plane scene where Jack's giving his dad the
I'm not
business
surprised you like that.
and draws the picture of his dad dying in
Without
plane
a parachute.
accident. Yep, it's pretty funny.
Yes. Which is a nice nod to this movie's pitch coming out of a children's drawing. No, it did. Dustin Hoffman is the voice of the pilot, giving the warning, turbulence, which is their subtle nod to the idea of double casting Hook in some way.
Yes. Yeah. And Hoskins is a street sweeper very late in the movie as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Fun. But what do you not like?
I think I'm saying nothing controversial here. Robin Williams, at his best, properly applied, one of the most effective actors in movie history, right? But the legacy of Robin Williams across many decades is sometimes going like, oh, Robin, you shouldn't do that. Come on, man, right? That's not the right thing for you to do. Like, wrong instinct. Robin Williams on paper playing Peter Pan in a Steven Spielberg movie, you're like, well, that makes the most sense of anything.
Yeah, get Mork in there.
In the world.
Yeah.
But it's also part of the inherent tension of what I struggle with in this movie is that it's like, so what is the idea? It's like Peter Pan grew up and has to remember to reconnect with his child made by two people who kind of never grew up. And this opening section, I feel like they do not totally know how to depict his boring normal life. Where I'm like, I think Robin Williams has too much comedy energy in this section of the movie. And then I think in the midsection where he's in Neverland and is like, oh, I don't know. I got a little closer.
Was better.
Yeah.
That was better.
I feel like in the midsection, his energy just goes down to 0 when he's lost. And that's what I kind of want him to be at the beginning, where I'm like, he's having too much fun being a shitty businessman, the quick draw shit
a good time,
and the bits. And when he does like the fundraiser dinner, and he's like, oh, I'm nervous. I'm not much of a public speaker.
Whoa.
I'm getting closer.
You're warming
We're
up.
circling it.
You're
Yeah.
warming up.
Good morning, orphans.
They fucking do the bit. Smee does like, good morning, Neverland.
Yeah.
I immediately, I'm like, this is the wrong story choice when it cuts to him at the banquet and he's delivering
He's killing.
his shitty jokes, but he's killing.
It's
And I'm
sort of it's a bit of a Robin Williams problem. Like, it's very tough for that guy to not be on. Like, it's
But in the
natural
midsection,
state.
I think he turns off.
Yeah, a little bit.
But even in Robin Williams hits, there's just like the sections where they let him go full Robin. And I
Absolutely.
feel like that was like the one, they put him in front of an audience. And I think that just
Similar
happened.
to a Jim Carrey, where like
Yes.
Peter Weir later said, like, you had to make him,
You have to wear him
take
down.
over and over, so he would just
Right.
stop being Jim Carrey.
Right.
Like, you would get it out of his system.
I just think the most effective version of this movie is you're watching the first 30 minutes and you're like, oh my God, where is Robin Williams gone? There's
Sure.
none of that spark.
Well,
And
I would also
seeing
say
it come back feels like such an exciting, cathartic thing.
but it should also be 10 minutes. It's way too
It's just too long. It's just too long.
just crazy how long it is. And it would make more sense if they were really like firmly setting up the lore. Instead, as you guys are pointing out, the lore is pretty vague. It's a little hard to parse what exactly
I
happened
think like
here.
Finding Nemo problem, like this movie should open with Maggie Smith narrating the explanation of how he ended up staying here and growing old. And then it cuts to 10 minutes of him being a shitty dad. Because when it's 30 minutes, he needs to have jokes in there because otherwise the audience is going to be bored to tears. I want 10 minutes of him just being like, oh, like kind of trudging through life. Because you also need to be like, he's not even really enjoying this. He's on autopilot. And then when he gets to Neverland, he's sort of trying to find himself. And then the last act is like, we got full Robin. He's fucking swashbuckling and doing impressions of William F. Buckley or whatever. He's doing his genie bits.
Wait a minute. Jimmy Swaggart in Neverland.
Yeah. I just always feel like his performance is
I hear ya.
miscalibrated in the arc.
I understand.
Yeah.
His children are kidnapped by Captain James Hook, who leaves a note saying essentially like, I took
Come
your
get me.
children, come get me. And then Tinkerbell arrives to sort of bully Peter into getting to Neverland with her, right?
Can
We
I just
have-
say about the note?
Yeah.
What a way to leave a note.
Hook on the door, like
Knife.
a
Knife.
knife on the door. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I've never done that before, but
Oh, you haven't? That hasn't come up.
You know
No.
what?
You
I
haven't
am
been like,
surprised that Ben
went to
has
get
never
milk.
done that. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Back in 20. Boom.
Isn't that how you propose marriage to your fiance?
No,
Will you marry me? Dagger.
No, I used the Ninja Star.
And we exit snowy London and enter Neverland, which is kind of tropical. Like beyond the fact that it's like an island with water and shit, like it has this sort of like tropical energy to it. Would you agree? Very, very colorful, obviously.
I'll tell you what it feels like to me.
What?
It feels like the water park adjacent to a major theme park.
Yes, it does. It feels like a theme park.
Right.
Yes.
But all the
It's
like
Pirate
Disney and
Land.
Universal have their sort of like, here's our fourth gate. It's called like Water Island.
But it's
And
also
it's like weirdly like volcano themed and kind of half thought out. And it's just got a bunch of like things that spin.
but it's also this like fake reality that doesn't know what to do with itself, right? The pirates are there, they be pirates, but they have nothing to, go and pirate.
Right.
Right. They're not setting sail and doing pirate stuff. They're just kind of stuck.
I don't want hard shoe leather on this, but I do want the movie to give me a little more of like, what the fuck have they been doing for 20 years?
I think you're overthinking this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna finally call it out. You're overthinking this. Time doesn't move for them like that. They don't exist in time. They don't age.
But I think the fun thing is the idea that it's like if Hook doesn't
or
have
that there's
Pan,
this feedback loop of fun that's happening.
Right,
They fight
sure.
the boys hang out with the Tiger Lily fights, helps them. Like it's this feedback loop of endless adventure.
Right.
But the great unresolved thing in Hook is that he never got to defeat Pan, right? That's been driving him crazy in this like interim period, which then also deflates for me a little bit when he's just like, you're not Peter Pan. Anyway, I'm going to go back to fighting the kids.
All of this, to me, is quite fun. I enjoy just like the pirates being pirates and Hook being Hook.
Yo ho ho.
Yes. Like
Bottle of fun? Yo ho ho and a bottle of
and
fun.
a bottle of fun. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The Glenn Close.
Uh-huh.
Right, like that whole sequence of
That
like
sequence is
someone
great.
amongst us is not who he said, right? Like, and it's Robin assumes
That's
it's him.
so fun.
I
It's
got to
very
call out my favorite cameo in the movie.
The boo box. Who?
Well, you have Phil Collins as the...
Detective
Phil Collins is the cop
Detective
who's
Phil
like,
Collins.
it seems like a pirate took your kids. It's
Yeah.
a bit weird given that you're a fucking Peter Pan or whatever. I'll see you later.
Yeah, something
It's
hooky
just
in
a
the air
studio.
tonight. Yeah.
Right. There's something.
When Tinkerbell drags Peter through the sky and there's like errant pixie dust falling down and you have like the very kind of matte painting-y bridge in front of Big Ben that the couple's kissing and they elevate into the sky. They start flying as they're kissing. Do you know who that is?
George Lucas
And Carrie Fisher.
Oh,
Isn't
I did.
that weird?
I love
It's
it.
weird.
George
I
Lucas
love it, I love it.
Mooch and Leia.
But do you think that was just because they were on set that day?
Yep.
Could that have been
Probably.
David Crosby and the Queen of Jordan?
I think
kissing?
100%. Yeah. Right. If they had visited that day.
Slap a wig on the Queen of Jordan. It's a pirate's life for her.
You're kissing David Crosby, who was
Yeah.
already dressed as a pirate.
David Crosby,
Wait,
obviously.
so
is,
that was
That's David Crosby
That is David
getting
Crosby.
I
picking
was
the
like,
nuts.
he looks so much
David
like
Crosby is 90% of the way to
Yes.
being a pirate in his daily life.
Yeah.
God bless him.
he swashes.
God bless him.
Yeah.
He buckles.
Is it actually insane that this is the only time David Crosby has played a literal pirate?
I mean, do you know that it is?
I'm asking.
I'm sure he's got other uncredited pirate roles
there
that we
must
just
be.
he hasn't told us
Because
about.
otherwise, what a waste.
And he gets kicked in the nuts. He gets
He
a
does
full on
he
nut
gets,
shot
he gets
close
kicked
up.
in the nuts. Yeah.
So, yeah, what is there to say about? I mean, like,
So-
Peter is, this is the dismal failure of Peter.
Then
Right.
they put a ticking clock on it. Give me
Right.
3 days to get him into shape.
But it's a tough scene.
By
even
the
as a
way,
kid.
also another cameo. Apollo Creed's manager is one of the pirate. He's the only black pirate that I clocked.
Duke.
Yeah, Duke. That's
Ooh.
Apollo Creed's manager in the Rocky
Wow.
movies. He's in all 6 of the Rocky
Of
movies.
Yeah.
course, Tony Burton is the actor's name.
yes.
I did not like Tony Burton Hook. Let's see. Dang. So everyone just kind of wanted to go.
Everyone.
Have
Hang out with
fun.
Spielberg,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, the pirates are great. The costuming is great. Like,
Totally.
like everyone's having
It's a good
fun.
time.
Oh, Jimmy Buffett is also one of the
yes,
pirates.
yes,
What?
that's right.
Because he, of
Again,
course, was best friends with Frank Marshall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are the homies.
Those are the homies.
I know this
Jimmy
in my
Buffett
professional life
Is
because
to Frank Marshall
Frank
what
Marshall
Put
produced.
Candor is to you.
No, he produced the Jimmy Buffett musical Escape to Margaritaville.
Yes.
And now Frank Marshall, who obviously had a long career as a producer and also made, Congo and Arachnophobia and a lot, like he made movies, now just churns out music documentaries. Like that Bee Gees one was so good. He's since done Carole King, James Taylor,
Did the Beach Boys.
and the Beach Boys,
Yeah.
and something about like New Orleans Jazz Fest. He's just like bang, bang,
He's
bang,
just
bang.
doing what he wants to do now.
That must be
that's
what it is, right?
That's a blank check. Yeah.
Yeah, like where he's just like, can I just interview people, like, and have
And
fun? Right? Yeah,
like
talking
music
about
I
right.
like.
Yeah, exactly. But no, the shaming of Peter again, like to get like where it's like save your children, go fly for them, and that he's humiliated in front of them. I think as a kid, this is like quite transgressive to watch. To watch a dad like get humiliated like
Yeah,
this.
you can't save your kids.
Right. It's really kind of unsettling. I think you're bumping on this again as having not seen this as a kid.
No. Here's what
in a world of mom and dad save the world type of movies,
it's
to see an emasculated dad basically be like, your dad can't do shit.
Captain Hook, like Bowser doesn't try to be Princess Peach's dad. Like it's weird that in Hook, Captain Hook, with the help of Smee, quickly alights on like, I'll be their father. Like the dynamics of it are so strange. It's speaking to the original like Peter Pan mythos.
I do think that's the most interesting idea in the movie. That Smee is like, you actually want to like fucking hurt this guy. Right. It's not going to be through a sword fight.
Right. If you're fighting a kid, you fight with your swords. But like now, the way to get at him is to like
he grew up and he has emotions now. So either you're going to like outbid him on the like merger they want to do.
Smee brought parental dynamics to a knife fight.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
And the Hook's like, good. Like, let's just get them toys and
Stockholm syndrome his child.
Right. And have them do good baseball.
This is what I'm trying to process.
Yeah.
In a childhood where my parents were saying like, and most of all, remember Hook sucks every morning.
If you remember, let our legacy be.
Right. My dad was saying,
like
stay in school.
Putting your backpack on.
Never get a tattoo. Hook sucks. Right. Those were like his 3 things. I do remember as a child being like, that is a potent idea for a movie. And I probably worded it that exact way. I stroked my chin and I went, that's a potent idea for a movie. No, but like as a child, you're like, fuck, what if Captain Hook never got over Peter Pan and Peter Pan grew up and he forgot that he was Peter Pan? And when I would catch bits of it on TV at friends' houses or whatever, this was the section I do remember sticking with me.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Of being like, this movie's bad? That feels kind of interesting to have Hook be like, what if I raise them better than you do?
And listen, I mean, 2 things. One, like as a 11-year-old whose dad did work too much and did have a fucking early cell phone, like that notion of I could get revenge on my dad.
My dad was
and find a different
same way
found dad.
Yeah.
And that's very potent and powerful.
Did your dad have a cell phone?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you see, I am
the big brick.
I remember my dad had a big car phone.
Of course.
Yeah.
Love those car phones. Because when should you really be talking on the phone? In the car.
In the car. It's crazy.
No, but I do think that's the power at the center of the premise, right? More than anything is, what if Captain Hook realizes the best way to get back at Peter Pan is being a good dad? Not just trying to go after the kids, but like the scene I remember as a child catching glimpses, feeling like it had a little juice, was the baseball game and him watching Hook provide the actual attention and support that he wasn't giving. Jack. Right. That it's not just that he's like, I'm giving you rubies.
Yeah.
Right. He's saying like, I love you, boy.
Yeah. Right. And you're going to succeed and you're going to be like paid attention to. I like that, it's really all centered on Jack though. Maggie, they're just kind of like, we'll figure her out.
I do
Maggie doesn't like me. We'll lock her in a closet.
Yeah.
Disregard it. If they hadn't cut her song, she would disappear from
She's
this
a cutie pie doll.
She's cute.
So Peter is given 3 days to become Peter Pan. He goes off to the Lost Boys with the help of Tinkerbell, and he joins the Lost Boys.
He should have taken Duke with him, because that guy's good at training people into shit.
Yeah.
He does get 4 mermaids.
A very strange moment in the movie. He gets dunked into the water, and a bunch of adult mermaids make out with him, and then he goes off to
They're breathing into him.
That's true. That's a good point.
But
it's called
you added the tongue.
Resuscitation.
I didn't say anything about tongue. I just said they kiss.
What do you call an open mouth kiss with no tongue but a lot of breathing? Where you're just kind of going like, like oxygen delivery.
It is a really interesting, it sort of feels like the nod to the rest of Neverland in this weirdly grown up.
Yeah. That's what I think I'm more getting at. Not that I'm like, how does this city run? But that I feel like in all other depictions.
What's the economy here? What kind of money are these people making?
Yeah, I don't care about any of that. It's a magical land. I want to be a magical land. I feel like every other depiction of Peter Pan has a little more of this. And it's maybe part of what you lose by like removing Tiger Lily, which is the right decision. But the sense that like there's a bunch of other shit going on here too, right? I've always liked in depictions of Pan where you're like, what goes on in that forest? Here's this tribe, here's this clique, here's this species, whatever it is. You sort of just have the 30 seconds of, let me admit, it's a pretty hot kissing.
It's about an hour into the movie or a little before, Lin, when he's finally
it's 52 minutes when he finally gets to Bangarang.
Right. So the Lost Boys, similar to Hook, it's like Hook has been stuck in like, I'm a villain with no enemy, really. And the Lost Boys are like, we're having fun, but with no like whatever, like organizing purpose, I guess. So what do we think of the Lost Boys? What can we say? What more can we say about the Lost Boys? We've already talked about how fun the set is, how cool the tracks are.
It's this insanely diverse crew.
Yes,
they are child star all-stars that we've seen in other movies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that There You Are, Peter scene is the scene. Like that's the moment where Spielberg like pulls like just magic out of a hat, and like that music swells. And you feel stuff. Like that's, if there's a metaphor for what Spielberg makes you feel when you're watching like his best movies, it's that. He pulls your face back. He goes, there you are. There's your inner child. And everyone goes, holy shit.
Pockets.
It can feel like this.
Isaiah Robinson plays Pockets.
He's maybe my favorite of the kids. But
sure.
I don't know how much of it is that moment. I will say I am pretty allergic to Thud Butt.
Oh man, I could not disagree with you more.
Thudbutt is a very 90s
he's
kid.
the most 90s
like,
kid.
like he feels like he should be on the Mighty Ducks later, right? Like or whatever. Like he's just kind of like a 90s kid. Rashawn Hammond.
Maybe it's what I like the most about the Mighty Ducks.
Thudbutt.
Is that Thudbutt isn't on the team.
What do you think of Thudbutt, Lynn?
I love Thudbutt. Thudbutt is A+ all around for me. He's very funny. How about when he like sits on the bench, it moves the gravity of the bench over and he goes, don't crowd me. I mean, he's getting effortless laughs.
Good line. David just solemnly nodding. That's a good line.
I like Thudbutt's beret plus tie combo. Like I like that they have this kind of mix of like greaser energy, but like Dickensian child wardrobe, like is sort of a funny way to present them.
I bump on
kind of punk.
And
Rufio's completely
it
different.
also it gives you the sense that different kids have wound up here.
They
in
have different
eras.
times.
different eras,
Yes.
different cultures.
In the
Rufio's
same way,
got
like
the-
ghosts can be any century, right?
He's
Like,
got the triple mohawk thing. He's got like the shark teeth or whatever, like whatever is dangling on his jacket.
He's got like ripped up
Got
pants.
the vest and the ripped up pants. He's a little older. He's like the oldest,
Yeah.
right? He presents as the oldest. This is why he's the leader. He's got the coolest name in the world, Rufio. I don't know where they came. This is an entirely original character, right? There's no
basis
naming of the Lost Boys
I think
apart
that's
from
right.
the ones we know, like and love, which is funny, right? I'm just yeah. In the original thing, it's like Toodles, Nibs, slightly,
Yeah, that's the one I always remember.
Curly, and the twins are the original Lost Boys, and the Disney cartoon basically hinges with that, right? Yeah, they're all made up.
yeah, I mean, Thudbutt, when he turns himself into a perfect sphere.
Okay.
He does do that.
Can we talk about this for a second?
Can we talk about this for an hour?
We were texting with JD this morning, and JD brought to our attention that in 2018.
No, I found.
Oh,
this.
you found it. I'm sorry.
So here's the prop.
It was auctioned off in
That's
2018.
horrifying.
It's a little ghastly.
This is Thudbutt in ball form. We
so
will post this
obviously,
on our
right.
social
Thudbutt
media.
has a special move. All these kids sort of like Pokemon, like they all have like a power.
Yeah, they evolve.
And Thudbutt's special move is where he sort of folds his legs up to his shoulders and turns into a ball and rolls. And it's a pretty obvious shift from actor to prop
Right.
in
Yes.
the movie when
Look,
this
and
happens.
Spielberg is a skillful filmmaker.
Please post that
We
horrifying
shall.
picture you
We'll
just showed
post
me.
it.
This prop, which was auctioned off in 2018, price undisclosed, age has not been kind to
I was going to say,
it probably
first of all,
looked better in 91.
Spielberg's a good filmmaker, so he knows what
knows
angles,
how to
which
light
lenses, how to
hysterical
light
Thudbutt.
it, how long to let the shot last versus a head-on, bright, direct light photo of a 25-year aged prop has not been kind to
But
it.
he fully Sonics.
He does.
fully suck.
So then
Wow.
I responded with the Mattel Thudbutt action figure,
Yeah.
which on the back has the illustration of the instructions of how to get his play feature activated, which is you can turn him into Thudball mode.
Thudbutt is certainly, he's the biggest ask of all these kids. The rest of the kids mostly
He's
cute.
so much.
You hate him so much? Is that what you said?
I just said he is
a
so
lot.
much.
He's a lot.
I just basically bump on everything he's doing.
But his scene with Robin got me too. When he's like, mine's my mother. Do you have a happy thought? Mine's my mother. Oh, Thudbutt making...
He's got
No.
chubby cheeks. I mean, this is very much, it's sort of like the Ewoks in Jedi, where like there's
Yeah, if you
there's
were a kid,
certain-
you liked it. If you weren't, you didn't like
Which
it.
I love the Ewoks.
the Ewoks are, the Resistance would have failed without the Ewoks.
Yeah, they
think
took
about
out the power.
it. Yeah, the logs smashing that.
Also, when Thudbutt realizes he can step on planks and hit people in the nuts, that's how we get David Crosby getting hit in the nuts.
That is true. Now, I mean, like,
Sure, I have to thank him for that. I do.
As Lin was saying, like, the logic of they stab and shoot, but the Lost Boys are a little more like, we knock you over like bowling pins, right? Like, that's more what they're aiming to do. But death is present, but only so present. It's never explained, or it's never delved into.
Yeah, it's also interesting
how much peril
late
everyone's in.
Rufio dies, because obviously it takes 50 minutes to get to the Lost Boys, right? But you could see the more obvious structure being Rufio dies at like the end of Act 2.
Sure.
And that's what motivates Peter needing to like come into his own and really start to like lead the guys. Versus like Rufio being a sacrifice once Peter has already...
Rufio died for our sins exactly when he needed to.
He does die for our sins, yeah.
He does. And so Rufio, right, as I already sort of said, he's kind of the juice of the movie. Because he's not just a problem. Like, he could just be a script problem for Peter. He's returned to the Lost Boys, and the Lost Boys are like, hey, man, you left. Like, leadership has changed. Rufio's in charge now. You have to beat Rufio.
Yeah.
But Rufio loves Peter Pan and misses Peter Pan just as much as, or more than anyone. And he is Spielberg, like, missing his dad. And this movie is made when Spielberg is reconciling with his father. As we talked about on our Empire of the Sun episode, like right when Spielberg is finally realizing that his dad didn't abandon the family exactly, but sort of stepped aside from the family because the mom wanted to be with Seth Rogen.
Whether or not that was the right decision, he's trying to
was trying to protect his mom a little bit. Right. And it's like this whole movie is about like the father returning, and like stepping into the childish role, but also into the
and that is where like the juice is in the movie.
It's such a rich soup. Yes.
Our friend Bill Gabiri,
yeah,
on our Empire of the Sun episode, was saying that his big theory is that there is this like bifurcation.
This is the dividing line
in Spielberg's career. That the first half of his career, he's making movies from the perspective of a son. The second half from the perspective of a father. And it's basically just like clean, like a line is crossed and at one point past the other, right? I always feel like Last Crusade is that pivot point movie because it's basically this guy being like, my dad hates me and I hate him, forced to go on an adventure with him and being like, fuck, we are kind of the same person, aren't we? Like, I hate that I now kind of get him, right? And he has to begrudgingly be like, I understand the value in what you do. Your silly Indiana Jones stuff has some power,
That's
right?
really real.
Right. So then to me, I'm like, there is like a clear takeaway in that movie of Spielberg like processing some stuff and like finding some middle ground with his father. And then this movie, I find the reckoning interesting. I find the fighting with itself interesting. I just like do not know what the end conclusion is here. And I'm not asking for like an answer narratively.
Yeah,
I'm
I know
sort
what
of
you
like,
mean.
does Spielberg, is anything settled in him by making this film? Which is not what I ask for from a film. But I also think a lot of the most interesting movies ever made are someone kind of needing to get something off their chest and realizing in that sort of James Lipton way of like, oh, fuck, I didn't realize Close Encounters was about me trying to talk to my mom and my dad, right? And this, I'm just like, if this is a therapy session, does the therapist go like, I have no idea what to make of this? You've thrown a lot at me, but I actually can't tie any of this together. Certainly, all of it's being like fought.
Like the simplest answer is, or whatever, like the most pat answer is, it's like, Hook is like, you are afraid of dying. And Peter Pan's like, no, I'm actually afraid of living. But in confronting you, I have realized it will be great to live as a grown-up, like to be a grown-up, like it will be fine. Because yes, Peter Pan had already become a grown-up, but he's bad at it. But now he's like, no. I understand that living and raising my children and growing old is going to be fine. And like, so I no longer return, long to return to Neverland and be an eternal child. So that's, what Spielberg, I guess, is realizing.
But I think,
and if you take this as the kind of dividing line of like, right, Jurassic Park and Schindler's List, those are movies made by a dad. You know what I mean? Like not movies of childlike wonder, but those are movies of, right? Like that's.
Yeah. I just think.
Now, if I say this to Spielberg, he'd be like, I don't know, man. That movie was annoying. The sets were too big. It was a headache. Queen of Jordan was on my ass. Like, I mean, maybe that's what he would say. I don't know if he would.
I don't need him to be able to explain it. Like a lot of times you make a movie because it's something you couldn't say in words, right? You were expressing something greater within you. I think the best artists who are in touch with something like, but I feel like, and it's part of the weirdness of the like Robin Williams, Steven Spielberg, Captain Hook, Peter Pan movie. That sounds perfect. Is like, but these are two guys who kind of like defied the odds and had it both ways for most of their career, right? Like these are two
Robin
guys.
got to be a kid forever in a sort of a way. He always had the impish thing.
And same with Spielberg, where it's like you both got to be kids forever and grow up, right? They both like became parents.
Yeah, like what's
raised families.
Does Spielberg have kid energy now? Like what's he like?
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you the one time I ever was on a set he was on, he was filming West Side Story in Washington Heights.
Right, of course.
It was the same summer we were writing in the Heights. It was one of my all-time top favorite days. We filmed the finale of In the Heights on 175th Street, and I walked 2 blocks to 177th Street where he was filming Maria, and then I walked home.
Yeah, I mean,
because it was all in my neighborhood.
That's the best part of the story.
I mean, it was truly a top 5 day for me, but I remember he was like a little, and he was filming like the balcony scene, but he was showing me like in the 10 minutes I got with him on set where he was like waiting for something to be set up. He was like, look at this. I did these tests with my camera. And he's showing me like him trying to figure out how to film Krupke.
Yeah.
And he's like, I did this test with my phone. And it was like a kid making his first musical.
Right,
and by the way, that to me
70s,
answers the question of why Hook wasn't a musical. It's like, I wanted to do it right. I wanted to do my favorite one.
Yeah.
And I waited till that was possible.
I think that's
And
right.
I wanted to come at it like a student.
Do you like West Side Story?
It's tough for me, but well, yes.
Loaded question.
I love the original.
Me too.
I think that is an incredibly made movie, and I think it's even more incredible because Jerome Robbins got fired midway through. Robert Wise took over, and it still works. Like there's still incredible filmmaking in that movie. And what I enjoy the most about Spielberg's West Side Story is I can tell the sequences that made him want to do it. Like when you watch Cool, you're like, got it. This is why he wanted to make this movie so he could stage Cool.
Yes,
that sequence is crazy. And then there are the ones that are just like, I think the first movie was more successful in doing it.
This
and
is
like,
exactly where I am
I
with that
also
movie. Yeah.
associate it with a certain high I got for seeing a musical for the first,
Yes.
like seeing the American number for the first time. Like, I'm sorry, even Spielberg can't meet my sugar rush or whatever that rush was in seeing like, are you kidding me? Like, this is what the best musical is about? It's about like Puerto Ricans trying to figure out whether they should what? So like nothing's ever going to match that sequence.
I think
for
a
me.
lot about
And Rita Moreno on a rooftop.
Well,
like
even Spielberg may agree with
I
you.
think a lot about what you said the last time you were on the show, where you were like, my goal as a filmmaker is to like only make movies of musicals that are not like canonically already sort of like elevated, that you want to be able to like adapt the things that in a way you're sort of introducing to people. And West Side Story for me, I'm like, that's like an 8 out of 10 movie to me, which I think our listeners often think I'm
and
really
great performances. Like there's not a bad, like everyone's wonderful in it.
But it's like fighting
and it's in the shadow of another.
That's my thing. I'm like, my bar for Spielberg is so fucking high.
Yeah.
Where if a movie's not a 10 out of 10 masterpiece, I'm like, oh, it's a little disappointing, which I don't really feel that way with almost anyone else. And then secondly, it's like him riffing on a movie that already has this like insane power to it. So it like has to fight this thing that like you're not fighting with Tick, Tick, Boom, which is sort of like there's a lot of room to interpret here.
Absolutely.
But what was I going to say before?
You're talking about like Stephen and Robin as eternal children.
I think they're both these interesting guys who had this balance of like never losing the childlike glee and being able to connect to that and being able to communicate that while also maturing, you know, becoming responsible parents, becoming like moguls within their industry and people who like move like the tenor of the entire like pop culture landscape with them and could like stretch into different types of work and do it in a way that didn't feel like a kid playing a grown-up in a school play. And so I think a lot of the Captain Hook Peter Pan dynamic is based on an ideological binary that these guys in a weird way kind of can't relate to because they've been able to marry the two. It's connected.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the conclusion that this movie needs to get to that they maybe couldn't quite figure out how to verbalize, which is like, what is the version of being a balanced person, having your cake and eating it too? And this movie basically goes like, he reactivates being Peter Pan long enough to defeat Hook, and then he goes back to being a better dad.
Well, no, it's Peter Pan can be within him now without it being a problem. He's merged, you know, like he's one person now.
It's so I mean, it's again, because like I'm thinking back to like when Spielberg was just shorthand for you want to be an artist.
Sure.
And that's how it was presented to me as a kid. And that's how I processed it. Because I also, as an adult, I think so much about what I hold true to being an artist is keeping the channel to your younger selves open. Like that's what the best acting is, what the best writing is. It's like being connected to all the versions so that when I have to write from the perspective of a 12-year-old who have to write Moana trying to get off land, I have to be able to connect to who is Moana? What is she doing there? What does she want to do? If I have to consider the coconut, I have to consider
the coconut.
The key to being an artist is what Peter Banning does at the end of this movie, is like staying connected to your younger self and like being able to like access that channel whenever you need to. Because I think a lot of the decisions we make as an adults are just like promises we're keeping to a younger version of ourselves. And
that's a big statement. Yeah. I'm just thinking on that. Yep.
And your job as an artist is to be able to access that and be like, all right, well, if I were 16, what would blow my, like, what do I want to make? What do I want to see? Like, that's a lot of, I think, how you form your artistic impulses is like, what did you like as a kid? What did you not like? And then like, that's how your tastes form. Like if our parents told me I hated Hook, I'd be like you, sitting in the corner nitpicking the economy of the greater Neverland.
You're on my cell phone trying to acquire companies.
Does Bruno have a little Hook Peter Pan to him? He's an eternal child in a way. Bruno in the walls. I'm just thinking about
Bruno's so scarred, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But he's funny. Bruno's funny. Loki is very funny.
When he got John Leguizamo, like
I know, but when he does, like when he puts the helmet on his head, what's up?
We don't talk about Bruno on this podcast. We don't talk about him that much.
We don't do that.
We don't talk about. I'm not saying we can't. I'm just saying we don't do it very often.
And a Bruno aside, since you took us there,
please tell me something about Bruno. I love to think.
That was probably the not easiest song to write,
but
it was
crazy because it's quite a complex song.
It's a very complex song, and I knew it was I remember actually we were in lockdown at the time, so I was living with my in-laws and my brother-in-law.
Sounds fun.
That's a lot of the.
Wait, is Encanto like based
a lot
in
of
that?
the secret sauce of what's in there? The juice in there is like
stuck in a house.
What are we allowed to talk about in front of your mother?
This is making a lot of sense.
And as someone who lives with his in-laws, no wonder Encanto really resonates with me.
But I do remember like actually stealing away and going to another place to write Bruno and being like, let me go write this somewhere else. Because it's a lot to work out. But the idea for it of like, it's going to be a spooky Montuno, and every story they tell about Bruno is actually easily explained away because we're going to have to see it from another angle.
Now, when Dolores says that she can hear him, she can hear him.
Well, she has very big ears.
But she doesn't know that it's like she thinks she can just like, right? Like Dolores doesn't actually know he's in the walls, right? She's got the little aside where she's saying she can hear him, but I think she's more thinking of it metaphorically.
I like to think of it that Dolores has known the whole time, but she also has learned like we don't talk about Bruno. Him. So it's just
Dolores is my favorite character. And the power I would want.
Cursed with knowledge that everyone, that's.
Dolores, the ultimate gossip, because she can hear everything.
But that's the thing. She could be the ultimate gossip, but she keeps all these secrets because she hears everything in the town.
Now, see, I have neither seen this movie 6 million times nor written all the songs for it. But my interpretation, maybe this holds less water.
I will also say, I think Camilo's powers are crazy. The fact that he can shapeshift, he mostly uses it to like hold other people's babies. There's a lot to explore with Camilo.
Oh, he was much more nefarious in early drafts.
Because he's like a little...
Right, and then they were like, we like this kid. So then, it became like, we are in service of the town.
Of course, right. They're it's like a heroic duty kind of.
He was just doing it to fuck with her a lot in the early drafts.
I was going to ask, because her ears are so big, is there an interpretation that she can hear Bruno, but she doesn't think he's that close? Like, she's like, well, of course I can hear him, but he might be like 40 towns away. I can hear everything.
I don't think so. I think she echolocates him pretty easily.
So she's
Although there are weird magical rules in that house. Like the fact
that
he's
Encanto,
got that
there are
tower.
magical rules.
I just mean in terms of where in space he might be might be tough to echolocate.
The rooms are bigger on the inside.
Right, rooms are bigger on the inside. They're all Mary Poppins bags.
Yeah.
Now, and is it true that when Stephanie had to do the Family Magical live, you were like, I don't know how you do this live, by the way.
Right,
like,
this is physically impossible.
This song was not written to be performed live.
I
love that song.
I showed up to that you're talking about the Hollywood Bowl performance?
Right.
Yeah,
it's so like, hey, we'll do the songs live. Have fun.
I got there like as they were in mid-rehearsal, and I think Jamal Sims, who choreographed the sequences for the animated movie, staged that. And I think he staged it unbelievably. The one thing I would have said was like, let the other people sing the chorus so that Stephanie can breathe.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I
It's
think
overwhelming.
Yeah, that's the one thing where I was like, we could have given her a break here and no one would have minded. Like, the company could have swept in and be like, welcome to the fan. And she could have breathed so that she could get ready for the next
You
section.
also could make
It's
a
an
bit out of her
8-minute
breathing.
sequence.
Yes, and like
Yes.
the run at the end with my sister, like, it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that.
Anyway, it's really
I love
hard.
Encanto very much.
I was
I hope we get I get a crack at like figuring out what the theatrical version of an
I'd
Encanto would be.
love to see it. 'Cause
there
it feels
are
more
few
suited
movies
to
I
it.
have seen that are more
Right, because it's
properly
somewhat
suited for
bound
being
to a location.
Yes,
But still,
it
Magic.
feels like a very obvious conversion.
Now, will my daughter ever realize that Maribel's name is Maribel? She just calls her Encanto. Everyone else's name she knows.
There was like an interview, like they got audio footage of Trump at the Kennedy Center, and he was like, and then Betty Buckley gets up and sings Cats. I was like, she doesn't sing Cats. She sings Memory.
He's so crazy.
Anyway, so let me.
Broadway depth of knowledge is so, like, it's both insanely off, and you're kind of like, what?
It's like 3 years. It's like people who like hyper fixate on the SNL cast
It's
when they
Cats
were
and
like
Phantom,
18.
and those are the
Right.
ones. Those are his shows.
Baby Les Mis. Yes.
Right.
Oh,
Les Mis, yes.
boy.
Well, we all agree on Les Mis.
Yes.
That's great.
Good show.
That's great.
Yeah.
So we haven't discussed Hoffman.
Yeah, I
much.
think we should discuss Hoffman.
It's not like he's not a comic performer. He has given other comic performances that
I
are
think
very
he's almost
funny.
underrated as a comic performer.
Exactly, like
especially
Wag the
because
Dog, or
his reputation for being so intense was overwhelming that even when he made giant hit comedies, they were like, yeah, but Dustin Hoffman's the most serious man alive.
Tootsie obviously is this like big hit comedy, and he is funny in it, but it's somewhat of a dramatic performance that he's giving.
He's playing a method actor.
Yes.
Who stumbles into
But he's both
a comedic
so
situation.
funny in the self-parody, and also then like Dorothy Michaels is a very funny performance, which he plays with depth and integrity. But
when you think about Hoffman at this point, it's like he wins the Oscar for Rain Man in '88. That's his second Oscar. Obviously, that's this like insanely big methody performance, right? He follows it with Family Business, which is basically forgotten. The Connery, Broderick, Hoffman.
A movie
like,
I'm
crime
obsessed
drama.
with the notion of a Sidney Lumet film in which the poster is, of course, these three people are related.
Connery,
Sean Connery,
Hoffman,
fathered
Broderick.
Dustin Hoffman, fathered Matthew Broderick. They all have the exact same voice.
Then Dick Tracy,
Yep.
in which he is Mumbles.
You're right. And I think that was shot the day after he won the Oscar and he had like 103-degree temperature.
That's insane.
There's some story about that.
All that makeup.
Billy Bathgate, a sort of notorious flop of 1991, and then Hook is it's just like it feels like he is going for something completely different post Raymond, right? You know, he is like, I want to do.
He's having a blast.
He's a
right. I
two-time
want to
Oscar
have
winner.
fun.
And
right.
and by the way, like his sword fights with Robin Williams
It's
are
one-
like legit good.
It's one reason I like the movie, like, you know, or I forgive the movie sometimes. It has fencing in it. Any movie with fencing in it, I'm serious.
Yeah.
It's how I feel about the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. I'm like, if you're going to give me fencing sequences,
See,
we don't get those in movies ever.
We don't.
I just don't really care about fencing.
You know, like sword fight, but you like Star Wars.
I love Star.
Do you like lightsaber fighting?
battles,
Which is just, of course, sci-fi
I know,
fencing.
but maybe
It's sci-fi
I just
fencing.
need
Yes.
the swords to glow.
So you don't like your classic Errol Flynn stuff? Like you never got into
I like
your...
Princess
like
Bride.
And Princess
and I like
Bride?
Robin Hood, but I've always been cooler on the Pirates movies than you.
I do love... I like sword fighting. It's
Yeah.
really it's because it's like dance.
I don't think I dislike sword fighting, but I'm just realizing it doesn't activate me
I think
maybe in the same way.
I
I
think
like
if there were two
hand-to-hand
blades
combat.
coming out of at the same time, like
I mean, that sounds
Duel of the
great.
Fates.
Right.
I think Hoffman's sword fighting in this is also impressive because he's wearing that coat and stuff,
He's wearing a lot
and
of
the
shit.
stockings and the wig and everything. He's got so much presence in this movie. It is a wildly committed performance. Like
How about the lip twitch shot where you just see the mustache? Like, I mean, he's acting. Balls
he's really going for living cartoon, kind of similarly to Mumbles,
Can
right?
we
You know,
zoom out in this Hoffman context for a second, because there's some things here. Lynn is leaning back to zoom out.
Yeah.
Zoom all the way out. His 60s and 70s are obviously huge, right? He pops at the end of the 60s. Back to this thing of like him not being thought of as a comedy performer. He breaks through in The Graduate.
He's so funny. in The
Tootsie's
Graduate.
like his highest grossing films ever are Tootsie and Meet the Fockers, right?
And Kramer versus Kramer was like a gigantic hit.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. But I'm like, Rain Man is a comedy.
It is.
It's
a dramedy.
It's a dramedy,
yeah,
but
but
it, like,
a lot of it is funny, and he farts and so on and so forth.
Right, like one of his 2 Oscars is for a comedy. You know, like
Yeah,
a lot of his
kind of.
biggest films are comedies.
I mean, calling Rain Man a comedy is interesting because I'm sure. I'm going to triple check, but I'm sure it won the Golden Globe for like drama or whatever, right? Like
It's very similar to Terms of Endearment in that sort of like it is a very funny movie that then gets to some
sad at the
very
end.
heavy places.
Right. Do you like Rain Man? Rain Man kind of an under-discussed movie for our generation.
Yeah,
Like,
I remember-
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we know so much more about that than we did then.
Yes.
And it's treated as this weird, curious quirk. But yeah, I remember like I actually weirdly remember the Oscar montage where they showed Hoffman's like clip of him being scared of burning the baby. Like I remember that clip and then cutting back to Hoffman being like, oh yeah, I killed it.
It's me, Justin Hoffman. Right, exactly. Yeah.
There was a clip I'm obsessed with, and I sent it to the group chat, and I'll have Marie repost it on social media. But it was 98 or 99, I want to say. Golden Globes, they gave Dustin Hoffman the Cecil B. DeMille Award, and he's sitting there with his wife, and they play a clip from, why am I forgetting the name now? Little Big Man. And he leans over to his wife and clearly mouths, good makeup. Right? And he's just kind of like sitting there and they're playing clips and he's just kind of like making little commentary on it. And then they play a clip from Hook and he looks frozen in his chair and he's like grimacing and he's like, ugh. And I think it does sort of speak to in that
Do you
moment.
think he doesn't like
90s.
that it just, that movie wasn't enough of a hit? Or do you think he's like, oh, I'm going too hard?
But it was I had a very strong memory of it in my childhood, especially growing up in a household.
I don't know,
In Hook household.
We hate Hook.
I think he's cooking in Hook.
Yeah.
Look,
I think
Hook
he
is cooking.
I think he is doing a very committed work in Hook. I think there is no reason for him to be embarrassed by anything he did in Hook. And I was sort of like, do I have a false inflated memory of this? Because I remember him having a really bad reaction and I rewatched it and it was bigger than I remembered it from childhood. But he has this weird 80s. After winning his first Oscar for Kramer versus Kramer, he does start to get in this period of like, is Dustin Hoffman too difficult? You know, this like sentiment that people would repeat of like, life's too short to work with Dustin Hoffman. For everything he gives you as an actor,
famously ornery guy.
you're going to get stuck in like 4 years of notes and he's going to battle you on every single thing. And he doesn't make many movies in the 80s.
He made 4 movies total in the 80s.
Right.
Yes. It's I can find it, but it's
Ishtar,
basically Tootsie,
Rain Man.
Family Business, and Rain Man.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right. And so like 90s.
He also did his Death of a Salesman, which was then broadcast on TV, which is this like insanely polarizing performance. Some people are like, one of the best Willy Lomans ever. Others are like, he doesn't understand that role at all. Like I always being debated, that performance. Yeah.
But like Tootsie was kind of like a comeback movie after he had only recently won the Oscar. And then he disappears for a bunch of years, comes back with the movie that
Ishtar,
is shorthand for flop, even though we love Ishtar, or I at least love Ishtar.
Yeah. And he's really funny.
And then he gets his second Oscar and it's like, he's coming into the 90s like, I'm here to stay. Right?
He made a lot of movies in the 90s. Dick Tracy, Billy Battick, Hook, Hero, Outbreak, Sleepers, Mad City,
But
Wag
this
the Dog,
feels like
Spear.
such a big swing for him to be like, can I do a whole movie where I'm the title character? You're sort of framing the movie around wait until Hook gets here, right? Like that is the sell of the movie.
Yeah.
He's first billed and Dustin Hoffman's going to go fucking hard as Hook. He looks incredible.
I think, I mean, saying all that, I think the fact that he looks like he's having so much fun is even more impressive. Like he's got the veneers in, he's got all the stuff on.
Doing this accent.
And he still looks like he's having a fucking blast.
I think he looks like he's having a great time.
Yeah.
Ben, do you like Hook?
Cooking.
He looks awesome. His costume is incredible.
Yeah.
Good form. I think he really nails also when Peter like humiliates him back near the end and robs him of his wig. And suddenly he's like, you know, on the floor and he looks like an old man.
Dignity, Peter.
Right. And he's like, oh, I am, please, Peter, my dignity. Like he's, you know, you feel for him or whatever, you know, like he's this odd, tragic, like shadow to Peter. Like he only exists in opposition to Peter. You're sort of rooting for him to get to play. You want him to have fun.
There's the bit, I'm biased, but our friend David Lowery's Peter Pan and Wendy, which I like a good deal, has the bit that I love, which is spoiler for a movie that went on Disney Plus 4 years ago. there is a midsection where Captain Hook believes he has successfully killed Peter Pan, and Jim Gaffigan is Smee, and Hook's kind of like, so what do I do now? And he's like, let's check the to-do list. And the to-do list has one thing on it, which is just kill Peter Pan. And I just, while watching this movie, I think back to
gag,
this
exactly,
bit over and over again. It just makes it like textual in this, but it's just like the guy's got nothing else going on other than his hatred for this kid.
Other things I need to hit: the food sequence.
Yeah.
You have to access your inner child to see the pretend food that we eat sequence. What's up with the Dayglow pastries?
It's that
They're
to me
not
feels
appetizing.
very Nickelodeon
Yes.
coded. It's
Yes.
just like green, pink.
But it's also just like bowls of frosting.
I guess that's sort of the
That's
idea.
the
Kids
idea.
like to eat turkey legs and then a big old bowl of
That's what I'm
frosting.
saying. Like, your Thudbutt's like clearly preparing a sandwich. He's doing his object work. He's laying it in. And then all anyone has is just globs
I'll
of
tell you
color.
what Thudbutt does his object work when he turns into an object to knock
Like,
people over.
That's his ultimate object work. Yeah. You think he did that in his Mad TV audition? Here's
Yeah,
my
he-
impression of a ball.
Peter's insults to Rufio kind of largely don't hit, except for nearsighted gynecologist, which is one of the craziest things ever said
It's
in a
so
movie that is rated
movie.
U in
Weird.
the UK.
It
Yeah.
kind of, I'm also just like, what is the insult there?
I
You're
don't
calling
know,
him
but
a
it's
perv?
it is funny. I guess it's sort of like someone who's sort of like, well, wait a second, I
Yeah.
need to get closer. I don't know.
Or yeah.
I think Robin Williams came up with that himself.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is an example for me, though, of a scene in the movie where I'm like, he's maybe going full Robin too early.
Well, that is supposed to be when it's
Yeah, it's-
starting to bleed
It's
over.
starting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there other, I'm just trying to make, what is there other things, Lynn, in your notes? Are there any things we need to think
the
about
shadow
here?
leading him to Wendy's house.
Yeah. Yeah. And all the sort of flashbacky stuff.
That's when he
classic
really
Peter Pan
That's when he
stuff.
remembers.
Yes.
That's such an important moment.
I know. The emotion of you are my happy thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where I'm like, I find it treacly. As a kid, I think I was sort of like, can we get back to the Lost Boys, please? Now, like I said, I can't help but resonate with me a little bit. Like,
We're dads now. It's different. It's different.
But it is part of my problem with Hook, where I'm like, who is this for? Right?
That's the
I'm
whole
not
thing, yeah.
sure. Right. But with the caveat that, yes, I enjoyed it as a child. So like I sort of defy my own logic there. But as an adult, I'm like, this isn't for kids enough. Like, it needs to be for kids more, maybe. But I don't know. And maybe I'm just, being a bit of a mud, but.
Can I call out a thing I do like in this movie?
Please.
I like Hook's closet or I guess secondary ship full of clocks.
His room of clocks, right? His
Right.
house of clocks. Yes.
That his way to blow off steam is to just beat the shit out of clocks.
Yes, he hates clocks, as the original Captain Hook hates clocks, of course, because the crocodile has a clock in him. Yeah, that's fun. The clock smashing sequence is very fun. The baseball sequence is great. The final sequence is interesting because it's goofy at times, and it's like an episode of Nickelodeon's Guts at times, and they have a chicken laying eggs into an egg shooter.
The chicken is the clip in the gun.
The chicken is the clip.
Fucking rules.
Yeah,
Right.
that does rule.
And yet at the same time, you're like, Rufio died.
Rufio,
He will never draw
there were
breath
casualties.
again. Right. And it doesn't really make any sense.
No.
And you just kind of have to like wash your hands of
They
it. It's
brought
like,
a
hey
chicken
man,
to a gunfight.
like forget it, Jake. It's Neverland. Like, I don't really know
Yeah.
what you're supposed to say like to all of this, except that it's like, this is actually just a psychodrama that Peter is resolving within himself. Right? You know what I mean? Like, this is all fake. Peter just needed to learn to fucking be a kid and a grown up at the same time. Like, he had to liberate his kid self and like return to Neverland return to England land, a whole person with his children, and right?
England.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, don't think about Neverland too hard as like a real place that children are stuck in, right? Because then
Right.
you will go insane.
That's correct.
But then again, you do have Toodles in like the real world being like, yeah, I used to live there. Thank you for
I used
giving
to
me
live
my
in-
novels.
Yeah, I
Yes.
left them there.
Who plays Toodles? Arthur Mallet. He's in Mary Poppins.
Oh, he's the he's the
Yes.
right hand man to the next door neighbor
Yes,
to
he's
Oh,
Mr. Dawes
Admiral Boom.
Jr.
Yes,
Yes.
my favorite bit. Yeah.
It is crazy that in Mary Poppins they put up with a guy shooting a cannon every hour? Or is it just at sunset? Is it just once a day that he shoots the cannon? Where they all have to be like, he's about to shoot the cannon and like hold all the paintings.
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
I think it's once a day.
Maybe it's just once a day.
I think it's at noon.
Still,
it's noon.
Nonetheless,
noon
annoying.
and midnight. Just noon and midnight.
Yes. You know what else is crazy? That movie introduces them before it introduces the Darlings.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, because that's a slow entry, right? Like, let's learn about the road they live on first.
It was a thing that like really stuck with me as a child. Like, that's a movie that is like so deeply imprinted in me, and went to see it recently screened.
I've watched it a lot with my dad.
And I was just like, every single part of this is like tattooed on my brain, and I've spent so much time like trying to unpack.
I love Mr. Banks so much. He's such a funny motherfucker.
One of the greatest performances.
He's so funny.
Yes. But like just that little detail of just like, and just before we even get to our main characters, we want you to know.
Next to a cannon guy.
Right. It's like.
And this is never going to like pay off in a bigger way, but it's going to continue to be here.
Just texture.
Yeah, just texture.
Yeah, just anything else we need to say about Hook. I'm just asking. I'm just sort of
Rufio
putting
rules.
out feel. Is Rufio important?
To the point where I'm on a rap song about Rufio with Dante Basco.
We said we would talk about this, you and I. So you tell me more about this. What is the song?
So my friend, I'm friends with Utkar Ambudkar, who's on this. He's probably most well known for the series Ghosts.
Was part of Freestyle Love
Yeah,
Supreme
but I've known him since Freestyle Love
Supreme. He's in Pitch Perfect. He's in Blind Spotting.
We've done a million things together, and he's one of my best friends. And he kind of just like does singles every once in a while. And he was like, I'm doing a song. He was like, do you want to be on any rap song I write? And I go, I don't really do that. I'm not like a rap, like I write hip hop music, but not really for myself. And he goes, but it's Rufio and Dante Basco's going to be on it. I was like, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Like it was pretty much the way you guys pitched me Hook. I was like, okay, I'm going to do that.
Yeah. When we lied to you and said that Dante Basco was going to be
Dante's
here.
on it? Okay, I'm in. I'm in. And so we just wrote this song about how much Rufio rules and not going up. And Dante has this kind of spoken word section at the end about what Rufio meant to kids, of just like, he was like what we had.
He's the
when it comes to representation, just like this absolute fucking badass.
I think it's so crucial.
Who dies young and for our sins, and but rules. He just rules.
JD in texting with us this
morning. Do we
like
the cock-a-doodle-doo? I really like that moment.
Sure.
Okay, fine.
Look, this movie's not my cup of tea, but JD was making the case in text this morning that like part of the interesting tragedy of Rufio is the idea that he has had to be the one to maintain this in Peter's absence.
He's had to be a quasi grown-up himself.
Right, that there was a sense of resentment in the fact that he was left to manage this, and then
much
everyone's just the whole time waiting for like, and when is Peter going to
he's like the kid
Spielberg,
who's been told he has to be the man of the house.
Who
he has to be the only grown-up in fucking Neverland.
Yes. And that is why when Peter returns, he's like, I don't believe it. You're not Peter, because he left. And it would just be easy. Whatever. A lesser actor would do a worse job with it. And Rufio, you just really feel like this is an abandoned kid who really has a chip on his shoulder about it. Plays the emotion beautifully. It's a wonderful performance. My hat is off to the great Dante Basco.
We did our very long episode on E.T.
Sure.
A film.
Shut up about E.T.
And my favorite Steven Spielberg movie. But I think part of the power of that ending for me is the idea that it's like you are seeing on Henry Thomas's face the notion, the feeling that everything he has just experienced has like created a point of no return for him. He has been forced to mature in a way that he probably can't even put into words or process, but the intensity of the varied emotions and stakes he has felt over the last week or two that you have witnessed have like pushed him over a line in a way that I think is Spielberg expressing this feeling he felt of his parents divorcing, disillusion of that relationship, him starting to become more of a parent figure to his younger siblings, all these things. As much as Spielberg got stuck in this permanent adolescence, he also was someone who was pushed into a kind of maturity, started his career very young, was like a young whippersnapper trying to convince old fuddy-duddies that they should trust him with money, that this interesting like one foot in both worlds thing, right, is like the core of Spielberg. And I think there is a feeling of insincerity in this movie that ties back to that JJ quote that I think is probably what he bumps against in rewatching it, in that it felt like, I guess this is everyone telling me this is what I should be doing right now, and versus Jurassic Park also being a theme park roller coaster movie where he's like, I just want to make something that's fun that knocks audiences on their ass. I don't need to get serious and nuanced here.
And the difference between those two movies is structure. Like, Jurassic Park has an incredible structure.
It's so clean.
And this
and
has
focused.
like a mushy, how did we get here?
100%.
Don't think about it too much.
This movie has so much
Like,
to explain.
it's the
Jurassic Park
different-
is like,
because
you've
the
been invited to
juice
look at Jurassic
The
Park.
juice and the stuff Spielberg cares about is all still there. He just does, the structure doesn't support it.
Because Jurassic Park is obviously about like a guy
This
who
is
has
what
to
I wanna
learn
say.
to be a parent.
This is what I'm building up to
right? He's
here.
got to be with these kids.
So I think Alan Grant is so unlike Spielberg as a character, and yet he is finding a way to express something more clearly through Alan Grant, which is like, hey, look, I'm just serious about my career. I just want to do my work. I don't have time for children, right? And with Alan Grant, you could argue this is partially subtext, but Spielberg talking when he was younger about like, look, my parents did a number on me. My childhood was weird and sad. I don't want to start that cycle again somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
But the self-seriousness of Sam Neill playing Alan Grant with full intensity, doing a real little boy's dream thing of I dig up dinosaur skulls all day.
It's true.
And being like, please, let me do my serious grown-up business. I have no time for children. And needing to just...
And the shots in that of like them seeing the dinosaurs, that's like the childlike wonder. Like, and it's us too. Holy shit, they did it. They made dinosaurs real. I'm looking at dinosaurs.
Right. And he needs to
walking
understand
around.
how
They
to
are-
like
they
relate
look real.
to
Yeah.
children as people,
Yeah.
which is the thing that Spielberg talked about through like making E.T. and working with child actors, starting to be like, oh, maybe I could be a parent. I'm like understanding it now, not thinking of them as like an alien species.
Yeah.
Versus like Peter Pan on its face and Peter Banning even more so feels like more of a one-to-one to
Yeah.
Spielberg. And he was talking about this era. He had made Amblin. He had become a mogul. He had 80 plates spinning at all times. Anytime he makes a movie, it's a big production. He's doing the math on how long am I going to be away from my kids? Do I feel guilty for owning a cell phone? A great crime. Drag me to The Hague, right? But I just think, and maybe is what makes this film interesting. But as someone with zero like childhood connection nostalgia to it, in fact, was predisposed to dislike it, I'm just like, I don't know where he's landing here. And I don't want resolution or like a cleanness, but it just feels like confused to me.
Hook, Ben, anything you want to say? Obviously, the Lost Boys are very Ben-coded in general. We've touched on most of that.
Yeah, we've touched on
They
a
have
lot of
skeleton
it.
armor that hangs from spider webs.
Well, that's what I wanted to say. When
Right.
they get battle ready,
That's pretty
they
exciting.
put on their stick armor
Yeah.
that is hung by spider web, and they just go into it.
Yeah, they were
That
waiting
is-
for this day.
That's
Iron
how you
Man's
get dressed
done it.
every morning, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, spiderweb hangings.
Yeah.
That image has really stuck with me, that visual. Another element that really stuck out to me was giant slingshot.
Oh, sure. Yeah. That's fun.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah, they have fun. A lot of practical stuff.
We're
You
in
know.
a double dare era when this movie
It
is
is.
being made.
That's exactly
Like,
it.
Cool stuff like this
Because
is existing.
It was the whole thing
And
with
that shit I
Guts,
all love.
which I
Yes.
watched, of course,
Yes.
with the aggro crag,
Yeah.
you know, where it was like, kids don't know how to use bungee cords. And they're like, well, they're going to use bungee cords on Guts. And some of them are going to be good at it. And others are going to spin in the air, completely lost.
Well, my level of frustration.
There's a cast member in Hamilton, Gregory Haney. He was also in a show I wrote called Bring It On the Musical. He won Global Guts as a kid. He's got the aggro
Holy
crag
shit.
statue, got a piece of that radical rock.
As a kid, I would have been like, the aggro crag to me was like the fucking Great Pyramid of Giza or whatever. I'm like, that is one of the most important like places on earth.
It is.
Yeah.
It is indeed. And it is the most impressive thing anyone has ever told me about themselves. Full stop.
That, the aggro crag and the travelator from Gladiators. I was just like, these are like, right, these have existed since time immemorial, I assume.
Our friends at Podcast The Ride had Mo from Global Guts on their show.
Whoa.
And I reacted when I saw that episode
Whoa.
title drop the way you
She
just
was the
did,
referee,
facially.
right? She had
Yeah.
the
Let's go to
thing.
Mo at the leaderboard.
And she was talking about they filmed that show at Universal Orlando. And during the day, the rest of the week, she just did various jobs around the Universal Orlando theme park. And they were like, what do you mean? And she was like, yeah, that show paid nothing. And we would
Sure,
do like
right. It was
15
cable
episodes
TV
every
in the
2
90s,
years.
right?
And I'm just like, as a child, I was like, well, that's the most important person on the planet.
Right. One of the top 5.
She's
at
like the
least.
head of the UN. What do they pay her? $5 million a segment?
Oh my
She had to pick up work on the side? Well, I was going to say, watching those shows as
You
a child.
shattered my reality.
I know. when you would watch like Legends of the Hidden Temple or
Sure,
Nick
Crystal
Arcade, and you'd
Maze
be
for
like,
me.
these kids are driving me crazy. If I could get in there right now, I could do that so well.
Right.
And then you get older and you're just like, wait, they were like on camera in a set that doesn't make sense backwards, looking at the wrong side of the thing. Nick Arcade, they can't see the fucking shit behind them. They're like punching a blue screen.
Between that and like being able to correctly place every country in Africa in 60 seconds on Carmen
Mhm.
Sandiego.
Oh, well, I would
These are
tap out.
impossible
Yeah.
childhood
I was-
tasks
yeah,
that
I-
we watched many times.
I was so locked into anything with maps and
I
flags.
never saw anyone beat the
Yeah,
last thing
impossible.
of Carmen Sandiego.
It was kind of like how the Ultrazord never actually appeared. It was like one time the Ultrazord appeared. And like there was no YouTube back then. It was just a playground. It was like, you watch fucking Power Rangers? They actually did the Ultrazord. Remember, they had to like call in a third Zord from a volcano to do the Ultrazord. Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm responding
just
blankly
agreeing.
because I
You're
never did see the Ultra
It's just,
Sword.
it's just fun. I never saw it either. I was so mad about it. Now I watch it on YouTube. Does that make me happy? No. This film came out December 13th, 1991. Unsurprisingly, it was a big Christmas release.
Yeah.
A big family movie. And it opened to $17 million and made 120 domestic and 300 worldwide, which was plenty of money. The film was profitable, unsurprisingly also a massive VHS hit. It just wasn't the phenomenon I'm sure Sony hoped for.
You read the press excerpts from the time, and they were doing the kind of hand-wringing that we're used to today, but I think was a little more unusual at the time, of being like, our back of napkin math says that the film won't reach break even until it hits $500 million.
Right, which was not true.
No, but there was the
obviously, right.
opening weekend. Okay, so it's a hit, but is it a big enough hit? This is another interesting thing, just to quickly mention, is like, this film is getting off the ground, bless you, very shortly after Sony buys Columbia TriStar.
Yeah,
like,
Sony
this was
has
a
just
big
entered the movie making
flag in the
game.
ground. That was part of the big maneuvering of like, we're getting Hoffman and Spielberg and Williams to do this movie together, is like, we need a giant movie. And you look at the 80s and the 90s, and it's just all the studios fighting over trying to get one Spielberg movie.
Now,
Like, he didn't have
yeah.
exclusive deals anywhere, and they were
Right.
just like, if we could just get one fucking Spielberg hit, we'd be so good.
it was the fourth biggest hit of 91. Like,
Okay.
you know, it was a big hit.
So the top film in 91 is Home Alone.
Terminator 2.
Terminator 2. Home Alone comes
Home
out
Alone's
90.
Home Alone's 90.
And then Home Alone 2 is 92.
Don't ask me when Home Alone 2 is. Yes, it is.
I
You're right.
think Terminator 2 is my oldest son's first R movie.
Hell yeah.
I
It's
was
a
just
good
like,
first R
It does
movie.
a perfect.
I was like, let's do
Let's
this
do
right.
it. Yeah, exactly. Right,
Is
exactly.
number-
If you're going to see one, let's start with a
Come on,
really good
let's
one.
not fuck around.
Yeah.
Is number 2 Beauty and the Beast?
Number 3 is Beauty and the Beast.
Okay.
Number 2, you won't get it, is Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves,
Oh,
which is one of those things where you're
Yeah.
like, we forget how much of a phenomenon it
Humongous.
was. Not like
I
we've
just remember
forgotten it.
The song,
The song.
all
Yeah.
summer.
Everything he does it for you.
and then where's Silence of the Lambs?
Sons of the Lambs is number 5.
Right below Hook.
And right above JFK. And then you got Naked Gun 2.5, Addams Family, Cape Fear, and Hot Shots.
What a 10.
What an era. Number 1 at the box office is Hook. Number 2 at the box office new this week is the opposite of Hook. Talk about an R-rated movie, an action comedy filled with swearing and guns and boobs. I mean,
Swearing
only
and
some,
gun-
some boobs.
Hold
I
on,
think.
one
But,
movie?
but it's just like it's a lurid ass 90s action movie.
Is it like a Shane Black?
Yeah, you got that right.
Is it a Last Boy Scout?
That's right.
Okay, there we go.
Tony Scott's
Yep.
The Last Boy Scout.
Bullet through the football.
Bruce Willis, Damon Wayans. Fun. A really peppy movie. Feels like that movie really like had some, went to the bathroom and came out feeling really energized. You know what I mean?
That movie took a very effective nap during its lunch break.
Last Boy Scout. It's also new this week. Interesting counter programming to
Yeah.
Hook, right? It's
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Anyway. Number 3 at the box office, it's a sci-fi sequel.
It's a sci-fi
It's a
sequel
solid hit.
in December 1991.
We've covered it on this podcast.
We've covered it on this podcast. It's not a trek.
It is a trek.
It is a trek. Is it The Final Frontier?
Nope.
It's The Undiscovered Country?
Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country. Do you care about Star Trek, Lynn?
No, not as
You've got a lot of interests. I feel like Star Trek would be like
that's
a
my
lot
one
for you
big.
to take on.
That's my one big pop culture blind spot.
It
It's
had
like
always-
Doctor Who and Star
yeah.
Trek. I missed the boat.
Trek
And
had
there's
always
too much
been
to catch up
mine.
on.
I've been trying to correct it slowly over the last couple of years. Yeah.
Number 4 at the box office. It's a big family comedy, big smash hit. The sequel's way better.
The sequel is it's The Addams Family.
The Addams Family. Barry Sonnenfeld.
Which is
The Addams Family.
one of the best movies ever made. But of course, Addams Family Values is the single best film ever made.
I like The Addams Family. It's just, I do feel like Addams Family Values just sort of has everything down.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Better. Yes.
But I think sometimes you undersell the first one a little bit.
And you know what? I haven't seen it in a long time.
It's really good.
It's got great stuff.
Yeah.
Values.
The great Raul Julia.
Julia.
The greatest of all time. I mean, do you agree? I mean, like, I really feel
I
like
agree.
he is one of those guys where it's like, if I had a time machine, I would like to go see every like Broadway role he ever
Absolutely.
played.
I would want to go see him and Meryl Streep at the Delacorte in Central
Taming
Park.
of the Shrew or whatever.
Taming of the
Yes.
Shrew.
Yes.
It is the shame with him that you're like, there is a handful of fantastic film performances, but if you dig in, people are like, yeah, but like 90% of his important work happened on the stage,
And he was like,
and you'll never be able to see.
I know.
he's one of the most important like Puerto Rican actors to ever live, right?
Absolutely.
Like one of the earliest like Puerto Rican like success stories in America, like on a whatever, on that scale, on the sort of A-list.
I want to listen to him just singing some crazy, charming shit. Is Two Gentlemen of Verona?
Have
which is
never
like-
listened.
It's the same composers as Hair, the
Right.
musical.
It's like a rock.
It's like a rock version of Two
Right.
Gentlemen of Verona, and it's just Raul Julia being charming as hell over like banging beats.
Him and
Might fire that up.
One from the Heart. That is
They had,
just like
Coppola movie.
bottled liquid charm.
He's
Yes.
very, very charming.
He is.
And he's great. And he's in that movie, which is out and is making a lot of money. Number 5 at the box office. It's an animated film.
Is it Beauty and the Beast?
Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast. Tales
It's also good. Do you like Beauty and the
I
Beast?
need 6 eggs.
You must like Beauty and the Beast.
I love Beauty and the Beast.
right.
Yeah.
The Beast
right.
is so good.
Yeah, no, it's an absolute stone cold classic.
I mean, look, we talked about it on this show, but it's just like when you actually zoom into it's a recurring theme in your work and the figures that you're obsessed with, but the level of work that Ashman put out in such a short period of time is crazy, and the impact and the lasting like echoes of it. It's
And-
just insane.
That's the one where he comes in late, right? Where he's busy with Aladdin. And they're like, can you come fucking take a look at this Beauty and the Beast that's not working? Like, right?
Yeah.
Like he did that fast.
They brought Ashman and Menken on, I
Right.
believe, onto that already
Right.
in progress. And then they wrote this crazy opening number where by the end of it, you understand everyone and everything in the town.
It's just ridiculous. She goes in there and is like, let me tell you about Jack and the Beanstalk. The guy owns the library and she's trying to tell him about Jack and the Bean. He knows about it.
It's an uneducated town. He's just in it for the money, for that sweet, sweet library money. No, but he writes like those 3 movies in like 18 months, basically, right?
Yeah, no, it's-
and basically simultaneously.
I recently watched Oliver and Company for the first time with my daughter.
I like that film quite a lot.
It's fun.
It's
cute.
fun.
Yeah. And he's got he
That
did
was
the one
the
song.
only Hispanic representation in the Disney canon
Cheech
for
Marin.
many years. Cheech, if this is torture, chain me to the wall. That's
It's a good
it.
cheat.
It's a good cheat.
I've seen that
Yeah.
movie. That one I saw in the theaters for sure.
And of course, it's very different. Now you also have Cheech Marin as Ramon in the Cars universe.
It's true. It's
Yeah.
true. They brought him back. I'm
Yeah.
very happy to hear that.
Also in the top 10, you've got My Girl,
Oh, sure.
another family classic of our youth. You've got Cape Fear, not a family classic.
Well, it is
not a
arguably a
family
classic
story.
film. It's about a movie.
It's about a family.
It's a family film.
You've got For the Boys, the Bette Midler, James Caan musical dramedy.
Lynn
about-
is saluting.
Absolutely. You have a little movie about a little guy called Fievel going west.
He's going west. Yeah. That was one of the earliest films I saw in theaters.
That
That I
makes sense.
definitely saw in theaters. Yeah.
And you have the adorable John Hughes comedy Curly Sue with Jim Belushi, which I don't think I've ever seen.
And Sis Eisenberg. That's Jesse Eisenberg's sister, is Curly Sue.
Is that
Is it
right?
really?
Yeah.
Really?
I thought Curly Sue was someone else. Sis Eisenberg
Go
was
Google
obviously
away
the
and come
Pepsi
back to
girl and the girl from Pauly, which I swear
Is she
by.
not also Curly Sue?
She's not Curly Sue.
Oh my God.
Hallie Eisenberg
I've conflated them all into one
is the girl from
delightful
Pauly.
curly-haired girl.
Yeah.
Because I was sort of like,
She's
she's
Curly
too old.
Sue.
She's
Yes.
too young, right?
She's a little too young.
I only
Allison
thought that was Jesse
Porter
Eisenberg's sister.
Yeah.
is Curly Sue. I've never seen Curly Sue. What's
I
it
never
about?
have either.
What's it
I'm
about?
doing this in my mind purely from
She's
the
a con artist.
poster.
She's like a cutesy orphan
Yeah. Allison
Okay.
Porter, original cast member of the Broadway revival of A Chorus Line.
of the Broadway revival of A Chorus
Yes.
Line. Okay, well,
That
I
seems
don't
to
know
mostly
from the
do-
Broadway revival. Of
Okay,
A
well, I
Chorus
don't have to tell you then.
Line. That's what's top 10 at the box office.
I like the
when Hook
different
is out.
snobbery we've seen on display here. We have the anti-Hook household and the like A revival cast.
The original cast pulled it off. Okay, Kelly Bishop.
Lynn, this
Come
is
on.
what keeps the show fresh after 10
It
years.
makes me so happy.
The dynamics are constantly
keeps me-
switching around.
It's what keeps me listening.
Well, decade of
That's
dreams.
very nice of you to say, and it's been very nice of you to join us to discuss Hook.
Thank you. I'm
Peter
sorry
Pan.
I couldn't bring more primary sources this time. I just really brought my own
You're
feelings
just
about
allowed
Rufio.
to bring your own
But
feelings.
you brought your truth. You brought your truth, and that's
Yes.
all we asked for on this show.
Thank you.
I was talked out of bringing a hook to the recording,
You should have
which
done
I'm
it.
kind of bummed about. I think we could have spent a little time just discussing hooks in general.
Ben, I don't want to embarrass you, but I just clocked something.
What?
Did you hide the chains because Lynn was coming?
No, they're at the gallery.
Okay.
Yeah.
What chains?
My
Ben usually has a
friend-
display of chains. Okay.
Yeah, my friend created a sculpture for the office, which is it's a chain display. It's various different sizes of chains sort of
over
hung
pipes.
from some pipes.
Ben loves chains and pipes.
It's just an aesthetic that I've always really appreciated in cinema. And
Sticks
just
and
kind of in
stones may break
general.
your bones, but whips and chains excite you.
Yes.
Got it.
Precisely. Wow.
Well, that's amazing.
What a wordsmith.
I wish I could take the credit. That's pink.
But no, I would have had a
Of course.
spotlight on it if
Yeah. Okay. I just
you
wanted to
know,
make sure. I just want to make
there's
sure. I
different
don't want you to be
circumstances.
hiding your truth.
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
I'm also, as we're saying goodbye, so I will keep it very short. Remembering my other connection to Hook, as you mentioned, whether we should have brought hooks to this recording. I played Captain Hook in the 6th grade play.
Whoa.
I was Captain Hook, and it was like it's the old timey Broadway version,
Yeah.
which has a weird hodgepodge of like
Like
Roger
the Kathy
Hammerstein
Rigby kind of. Yeah.
contributed some material, but then they brought in ringers to write other songs.
Yeah.
It's like actually a weirdly collaborative score. And that was a big deal. Like I got to wear a wig and I had a fake hook that I then had as a prop for many years in my house.
Did you paint on a goatee and go, wait a second, this looks good?
Yeah, I painted on a goatee and said, I think this is going to be my look going forward. I'll wait till this grows in.
I'm almost surprised you didn't play Pan.
Yeah, well, Evan Newman was just a much better singer than me.
Oh,
so
well, I mean, you're not going to beat
I'm
him.
not going to beat Evan Newman.
Yeah.
Him.
It was a
He
lot
was-
easier to get
he
the
was
financing with him as Pan.
It's true. He was a great Peter Pan. He's a wonderful actor.
I feel like classically Peter Pan played by an adult woman, right? Like that's
True.
Yes,
Yeah,
this
a lot
was
of
the
gymnasts.
Allison Williams
Yes.
approach in Peter
Right.
Pan Live.
Yes.
Sort of notorious moment in pop culture. I feel like
In
Live.
Peter Pan history.
Yes.
Lynn, I feel ridiculous asking this, but anything you want to plug? Is there anything relative to when this is coming out that feels
The only
Good cue.
crossover, I have nothing to plug. I'm here because I adore you guys.
you're
very
too
nice.
kind?
But I did have a chance to talk with Frank Marshall because I did write a musical adaptation of a movie early in his filmography, The Warriors.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
So I wrote
Which I will say, the Warriors, the vibe of the Warriors does feel like a you are maturing up from Rufio and the Lost Boys to the Warriors. I want to make it clear the Warriors exist before
Warriors
Hook.
are also very stylized gangs.
But I imagine you watched this first and then discover the Warriors, or
God
were they
bless,
about the
I wish. Again, I will
Really?
refer you to my unsupervised
Okay.
childhood. I saw
Yes.
Warriors when I was 4 years old.
wild?
Like older brothers VHS, like
Okay.
friends' older brothers VHS cassette.
Yeah.
And like that, I imprinted on that as
Yep.
like, oh, that's what
Makes perfect
where I
sense.
live is like at night. And like
Lynn,
needed to write a whole musical with my friend Issa Davis to like work it out.
I saw Sidney Lumet's The Wiz again recently, which is one of my absolute favorite movies and one of the movies
Absolutely.
I've watched the most in my life.
I was an Adapro backup in The Wiz in 6th grade too.
That's wild. But I had a similar thing where for the first time I think I unlocked why I'm so hyper fixated on that movie. And it was, I think this movie spoke to the way I felt as a child living in a city I love that feels inherently hostile.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
if
which
I,
is the
if I'd
thing that-
seen The Wiz sooner, I'd have
Right.
imprinted on that. But I saw The
Yeah.
Warriors first.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so anyway, that's an album. You can get it now. A lot of amazing people are on it.
Yes.
Miss Lauryn Hill, Ghostface, Nas.
All right. Go
It's
off.
just we got a crazy, because it's an album and not a thing people have to do 8 times a week. We just got the all-star cast of our dreams to play different parts on it.
I mean, it's awesome. I've listened to it many times.
And hopefully if it
It's
goes to
really
Broadway, you
good.
can book Eric Newman. I hear his
Evan
pan
Newman.
was incredible. God
Evan
damn it.
Newman.
I flipped him out.
Evan would be great. Evan would go on to play. I directed West Side Story my senior year in high school, and he was my riff.
Hey,
Yeah, no, Evan's the real deal. He's great.
Excited for everything coming up, whatever it is, be it that and other things. Excited for our next episode, Griffin, which is Jurassic Park. What's that
Oh.
about?
Dinosaurs.
With the great Sean Fennessy.
The great Sean Fennessy. It is
Enjoy.
quite
Yes.
good, that episode. I think.
It's quite good.
That was
We're
recorded
having a good time.
18 years ago.
It was recorded a long ass.
Weirdly, that episode is when we first met. We meet on mic in that episode. And then we're like, should we do a podcast?
I'm actually excited to listen to it because I have no memory of that conversation.
Listen, I'm glad you
So
frozen
long ago.
Amber, and you will.
That's right, exactly.
It
That
is-
episode
it is-
will be brought out
It
of
is
Amber
really frozen
by
in
Mr.
amber.
DNA or whatever
Right.
his name is.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us again.
Thank you so much for being here.
That's it. Poke,
Yeah.
come on, take us out.
Bangarang!
Thank you all for listening. Please remember to rate and review. Tune in next week for Jurassic Park. And as always, Lynn, I'm sorry to do this, but one final piece of
Oh, no.
housekeeping.
Oh,
I
no.
must
What?
ask this. This is not, I just need, this
We're
is
all
purely
scared.
a question. This isn't a request, it's a question. I need to close a loop that started on another podcast, the Great Doughboys podcast. I don't know if you're familiar, our favorite podcast. They review chain restaurants, Nick Weiger and Mike Mitchell.
Sure, funny show.
I recently, when I was in Los Angeles, went and did an episode on Chuck E. Cheese with them.
Okay.
There is a song that plays in the rotation at Chuck E. Cheese now that is 100% Chuck E. Cheese doing Lin Manuel Miranda.
No shit. I haven't been to a Chuck E.
It's
Cheese
called
in
The
10 years.
Perfect Day. And the Doughboys associate producer, Amelia Marino, said, I think they got the real Lin for this. It sounds so much like him.
I am so sorry to burst this bubble.
I promised I would get an answer.
I have never heard of this song in my life.
So I just want to
And
conclusively,
I try
for
to
the
avoid
record,
taking my children to Chuck E. Cheese whenever possible.
probably
I just
smart.
I can't play it on
lose
mic.
them in the pits.
but we just need to settle this issue. You have never written an original song for the Chuck E. Cheese restaurant.
I have never had the pleasure of working with Charles Entertainment Cheese.
Yet.
Yeah.
Never say never.
Blank Check with Griffin and David is hosted by Griffin Newman and David Sims. Our executive producer is me, Ben Hosley. Our creative producer is Marie Barty Salinas. And our associate producer is AJ McKeon. This show is mixed and edited by AJ McKeon and Alan Smithy. Research by JJ Birch. Our theme song is by Lane Montgomery and the Great American Novel, with additional music by Alex Mitchell. Artwork by Joe Bowen, Ollie Moss, and Pat Reynolds. Our production assistant is Minnick. Special thanks to David Cho, Jordan Fish, and Nate Patterson for their production help. Head over to blankcheckpod.com for links to all of the real nerdy shit. Join our Patreon, Blank Check Special Features, for exclusive franchise commentaries and bonus episodes. Follow us on social at Blank Check Pod. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter, Checkbook, on Substack. This podcast is created and produced by Blank Check Productions.